Kurose Hikaru, a first-year high school student, sits in his class one morning. He wonders how they can be so noisy so early in the morning. As he continues fiddling with his phone, his attention is suddenly drawn by his classmate Nanami, to whom he responds with a rather cold greeting. She moves forward to complain about how he's so distant, given that they've known each other since childhood. Hikaru reminds her that he already suggested that they stop acting like childhood friends when they both started high school. However, she insists it doesn't matter, as they used to attend and walk to school together. Hikaru clarifies that they only walked to elementary school together, and she was often slow, causing them to be consistently late. Later, during their first period, the class television unexpectedly lights up. The first to notice is a female student who promptly alerts the teacher, surprising everyone. The majority of the class shifts their attention to the television, while some also discover the same image displayed on their phones. They observe a white silhouette figure appearing on their screens, sparking curiosity about the identity of this mysterious presence. The teacher, wondering if someone is pulling a prank, attempts to turn off the TV using the remote, but it doesn't switch off. The same issue persists when they try to unplug it from the switch. Suddenly, the white silhouette begins to speak, claiming to be God. It expresses having waited for the moment when they, its children, referring to humanity, have fully matured and are ready. The figure informs them that it will be selecting 1,000 people randomly from all countries worldwide. These chosen individuals will be transported to another dimensional world distinct from the current one. As the revelation unfolds, it becomes apparent that this broadcast is being aired globally, captivating audiences across every country. The silhouette elaborates, explaining that the parallel world is a creation meant to mirror human actions. Hikaru calculates that there is only a 0% chance for him to be among the 1,000 people chosen from the 7 billion of Earth. The silhouette further states that the selected few can live freely in the other world without obligations to it, but the cost of this freedom includes the risk of death. Hikaru finds this aspect unreasonable, expressing that being sent to a world only to face the possibility of getting killed is unfair. The silhouette assures that they won't send them to the parallel world empty-handed. To support their survival, each participant will be granted a gift. Additionally, it has made it possible for all the remaining humans on Earth to watch the participants. At specific times, those left behind will have the privilege of supporting the 1,000 otherworlders by tuning into their live streams. Each otherworlder will have a dedicated live stream, and the viewers will assist them, providing support and power. The otherworlders with a lot of gifts will not just get special privileges, but can also anticipate benefits that will make things simpler for them. The silhouette concludes by saying that the chosen individuals have been marked in specific locations on their bodies. These marks cannot be replicated by humans at their technological level. Additionally, he suggests that more details about the game can be found on a website he has displayed. Suddenly, everyone starts checking parts of their bodies to see if they can find any marks. The silhouette confesses that the reason behind the game is a sort of reward. As human civilization has reached a certain point, he has given them a chance to rise up to his level of existence. The silhouette then reveals to them that the location of the mark is on their palms. Hikaru immediately checks his palms and notices he doesn't have the said mark. However, when he looks at Nanami, he is shocked to see a glowing mark on her palms. Later that evening at Nanami's house, Hikaru comforts her as she seems to be sulking, questioning why she of all people has been chosen. She asks Hikaru if there's a way to return the mark, but he explains there's no available information on that. Nonetheless, he promises to gather information from someone knowledgeable about navigating an isekai world to ease her worries. However, Nanami doesn't seem comforted by his words. Over time, Nanami's popularity grows each day, making her the favorite student for everyone, especially since she's the only one selected in their school. Hikaru does his utmost to provide her with the information and guidance needed to survive in the isekai world. On the very day Nanami is set to go to the parallel world, Hikaru goes to visit her at her home. He observes that the door to her house is open and quietly enters. Upon entering, he notices that the bedroom lights are on, sparking suspicion that something is amiss. Hastening to her bedroom, he discovers her covered in blood, lying as if leaning on the bed. In a panic, he screams and rushes towards her, attempting to shake her, but she remains lifeless as a doll. It is at that moment he realizes she is dead. While shaking her, he suddenly feels a sharp stab in his back. Turning around, he discovers a person standing with a knife in hand. The individual maniacally apologizes for Nanami's death. Hikaru identifies him as a schoolmate who attempted to befriend Nanami after her selection. Despite the pain in his back, Hikaru inquires about the motive behind Nanami's killing. The boy teases Hikaru for his lack of knowledge and discloses a troubling belief that if a chosen person is killed, their privileges would shift to the assailant. He expresses he has always had a strong desire to enter the isekai realm at any expense, and sympathizes with Nanami, speculating that she would likely die early there anyway if she were to go. This morbid reasoning leads him to conclude that he had to eliminate Nanami on the day of the transfer to become eligible. Dismissing these notions, Hikaru calls him an idiot for relying on misinformation circulated on the internet. The boy kicks Hikaru in anger after being called an idiot. Hikaru starts to feel his consciousness fading. The boy informs Hikaru he's going to lock the door to prevent others from entering, as there's only an hour until the transfer. Hikaru rests on top of Nanami's lifeless body, noticing she was holding a photo of both of them when she was killed. Overwhelmed with sadness, he pleads with God for another chance for him and Nanami to be friends in a different world. Following this plea, he loses consciousness and passes away. Hikaru abruptly wakes up to find himself in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by an endless white space. Strangely, there's nothing else in sight. He is convinced that he died and contemplates if this is what the afterlife is like. While pondering his miraculous survival, a PC materializes in front of him. He approaches it cautiously and turns it on. Instantly, a notification appears on the screen revealing he has been selected to journey to another world, and instructing him to distribute his bonus points. Hikaru gets worried and puzzled, not understanding why he's been picked. Taking a moment to think about recent events, he wonders if Nanami's rights moved to him because they were close. But he remembers that this idea has been proven wrong. Also, being there suggests he didn't die. He thinks about whether Nanami might be in a similar situation, wondering if she was alive at the time. Hikaru then assumes that his rights do not belong to Nanami, but rather originated randomly from someone else, and he speculates that Nanami is also experiencing reincarnation. After a while, he decides to set aside these thoughts for later. Suddenly, another notification warns him that he has 3 minutes until the transfer, meaning he only has 3 minutes to allocate his skill points. It dawns on Hikaru at that moment that the countdown commenced as soon as he arrived, and he has been squandering valuable time pondering irrelevant matters. Panicking, he is unsure which skills to assign to himself, but eventually he opts for abilities unattainable through individual efforts. The top skills on his list are aging, resistance, and disease resistance, leaving only money and clothes. He decides to defer those considerations and promptly confirms the transfer point system. After completing the skill selection, he encounters a transfer point selection page with 3 options. The first choice allows him to transfer to a relatively safe place with minimal danger, such as a location near a village, but it would cost him 27 points. The second option is to transfer to a completely safe place, free from dangerous wild animals, with a town right at the transfer location. However, this option comes at a cost of 30 points. The third option is a random transfer. This random transfer would take a player to a completely random place, and nobody knows specifically where a person may end up. But it will not be in the sea, lava, or other places with no chances of survival. If a person is unlucky, it can be very dangerous. If they're lucky though, they might land near a village. But even though this option costs 0 points, it's not recommended. This is a dire situation for Hikaru, as he only has 24 points left, which isn't enough to transfer safely. Even if he removes one of his chosen abilities, if he doesn't manage to change his choice in time, he will have lost an ability meaninglessly. As time runs out, Hikaru accepts his fate to be transferred to a random place. Suddenly, he's enveloped by a bright light. A few moments later, his stats containing all of his details and skills are displayed for him. In the next minute, he finds himself atop a tree, seemingly in the middle of a forest. He hears the sound of an alarm echoing from everywhere, and then a voice welcomes him to another world. He is assigned the number 1000, being the last person chosen. Back on Earth, the show begins, and numerous people are already tuned in. Many find it challenging to keep up with all the participants, as they believe that 1,000 shows are too many to follow. They are actively commenting on the actions of the participants in the game. Some express concerns about the safety of the players, while others are indulging their eyes and watching cute girls and boys. Some people wonder who Hikaru is, and why he has been transferred to a weird location. Later in that day, more unfolds. One participant dies, and before anyone can react, another follows. Some people believe that at the current pace, approximately 5 individuals would end up dead every day. It is later discovered that those who chose the random transfer option are the first to meet their demise, making it seem like a death trap orchestrated by a higher power. Subsequently, news about Nanami's murder is announced on the news. In the parallel world, Hikaru dashes through a forest, relentlessly pursued by a fearsome creature known as the Burning Great Ape. The ape relentlessly chases him, nearly capturing him, when suddenly he awakens in his bed. It turns out that it was all a nightmare, and he recalls successfully escaping the monster-filled forest. Checking his character status, he's shocked to see his real-time viewer count at 46 million. Frustration builds within him, silently wishing they would stop watching. In a swift move, he activates his skill, Darkness Fog, concealing his actions from the viewers. Going several days back to the first day Hikaru transferred, after descending from the tree, he is amazed by the tremendous sizes of the trees. Since he doesn't know his current location, he decides to confirm it first. Hikaru activates his status, and a holographic status board appears in front of him. He is amazed and shocked to see that it looks just like a game, especially since the status board contains so much information about him. He also notices that things called points and crystals can be used to trade items, skills, or hints. Deciding to explore further, he clicks on an option on the board called Item Trading. Using the item trading feature, he trades one of his points for a barrier stone. The barrier stone is a tool that, upon breaking, deploys an invisible barrier around the participant. Hikaru notices the convenience of the item but opts to use his points judiciously. He decides to inspect his location next, aware that only by ascending a tree can he catch a glimpse of the forest. It would be advantageous if there were a human settlement nearby. He consults his map to determine the distance between himself and the nearest human settlement. Upon checking the map, he discovers that his current location is on the Ring Pill continent, also known as the Demon Land of the East. The closest human settlement to him is known as the East Fortress, which is 373 kilometers away from his current location. Hikaru is disheartened because he knows 373 kilometers is too far, no matter how he thinks about it. It's significantly longer than the distance between Kyoto and Nagoya, yet the dangerous level of the forest is rated 4 out of 6. He desperately prays for a faster way to escape the forest. Suddenly, information pops up on his status board asking him if he would like to consume 1 crystal and listen to Tips of Living. Tips of Living are optional pieces of information provided to an outer worlder, offering them guidance necessary for survival. Hikaru finds himself in a dilemma as he contemplates the best option to make, because he knows the crystals are precious. However, since it's a tip for survival, sacrificing 1 crystal doesn't seem too significant, so he decides to try it. The only information that gets relayed to him after clicking on Tips of Living is that he should dwell in the darkness. He begins to wonder what they mean by dwelling in the darkness. The only thing he knows about darkness is that he has night vision. As he keeps thinking, he suddenly remembers a sub-skill of his spirit arts, which includes Earth, Light, and Dark spirit arts, each costing 10 points. He observes that Dark spirit art lacks offensive capabilities, serving primarily as a supporting technique. Contemplating between Water and Fire spirit arts, which are more offensive, he eventually opts to heed the advice of Tips of Living and selects the Darkness art. Following this decision, he receives a notification confirming the acquisition of the skill Dark Mist. Unaware of its function, he decides to test it out. The following night, Hikaru finds himself pursued by a pack of hungry wolves. While fleeing, he subconsciously activates Dark Mist. Gradually, he becomes aware that a dark, shadowy mist is enveloping his entire body. Thanks to this shroud, the wolves lose both sight and scent of him, allowing him to successfully escape. Later, Hikaru realizes that despite using the skill, he remains unfatigued. He assumes it's likely due to the Affection of the Spirit skill. He later observes on his status board that his abilities are steadily increasing and his Dark Mist has evolved into Darkness Fog. Additionally, he decides to test the capability of his night vision and discovers that the skill grants him the ability to see at night as if it were day. Back in the present, while seated in his room, Hikaru casts a Shadow Bag, a skill seemingly allowing him to store items in a pocket dimension. He retrieves 2 stones from the shadow bag intending to sell them, having already used most of the items he acquired earlier in town to cover equipment and lodging expenses. Later in the day, he is surprised to find that the shop owner is willing to pawn the stones for only 4 silver coins. Hikaru questions if a better option is possible, but the man explains that the value of a spirit stone from a living creature is typically determined by its color and size. Although Hikaru's stone isn't lacking in size, its color is disappointingly plain. Hikaru concedes and accepts the man's pay. However, as he is leaving, the man calls him back, asking if Hikaru needs a way to make some money. He then advises Hikaru to go to a labyrinth called the Grand Melta Dungeon. The man further explains that the city they're currently in is famous for having many labyrinths, and the city is mostly enriched with resources from the Grand Melta Dungeon. Hikaru inquires about the kind of stone he can possibly obtain from the labyrinth, and the man suggests he goes for the spirit stones, since the rewards for defeating them are high. Additionally, the man recommends that Hikaru go with a team if he finds it too challenging. However, he confesses that he always wanted to go alone from the beginning. As Hikaru leaves the shop, he recalls that since arriving in the new world, he has been pursued by various monsters in the forest. Now he wonders about the types of monsters that might inhabit the labyrinth. Lost in thought, he accidentally collides with a lady. Apologizing, he is surprised when she grabs hold of him, attempting to seduce him. He politely tries to ask her to let go, but she persists, placing his hand on her bosom and suggesting they spend the night together. It becomes apparent that she is a prostitute, asking for 2 silver coins for the night. Hikaru panics, sensing the piercing gazes of curious onlookers from all around. He even perceives them laughing at him. It turned out that Hikaru spent 10 days in the forest before he was finally able to escape. Upon escaping, he receives a notification congratulating him. He is ranked as number 1 in the first total viewers ranking, and as a prize for winning, he has been awarded 3 points. Additionally, he was granted the privilege of receiving messages from viewers on Earth, specifically from Japan, sent to his mailbox. Hikaru becomes excited, thinking he had gained many viewers due to successfully navigating the forest. However, upon opening the mailbox, shock washed over him as he discovered the opposite was true. Countless emails containing death threats and curses arrived from viewers who believed he was responsible for killing Nanami and her entire family to usurp her position. It was at that moment the reality dawned on him. Nanami was indeed dead, and she hadn't accompanied him to the parallel world. He begins to experience a mental breakdown, crying profusely as he confesses that he couldn't have murdered Nanami because, just like her, he was also a victim of murder. He expresses that he had no desire to find himself in an isekai. Later, he decides there's no point in explaining, realizing that they never supported him from the start, implying that they were likely laughing at him while he struggled through the forest on his own. The prostitute inquires if he's okay after she notices his prolonged silence. However, Hikaru is aware of the 1 billion viewers expecting him, the boy they believe to have killed his childhood friend, to succumb to the allure of an isekai prostitute and engage in indecent acts. Instinctively, he pushes the girl away, causing her to fall on the floor. Despite feeling remorse and hesitating briefly, he follows up to apologize. Soon after, he swiftly runs off. After running a certain distance, he slows down as the feeling of loneliness grips him once more. He knows he's just a 15-year-old boy with no resolution, a high school kid who hasn't even thought about his future yet. Additionally, he's aware that he no longer has a family or acquaintances, and his cherished childhood friend is also gone. His true feelings, which he has been hiding within him, begin to pour out in the form of tears. He falls down to his knees and starts to cry, wishing that his tears would stop. Later on, Hikaru finally reaches the Grand Melta Labyrinth, and is amazed by the unusual exterior of the dungeon. The spirit stone at the top of the dungeon is shaped like the tentacles of an octopus. He observes numerous adventurers outside, engaged in discussions about the happenings inside. 2 adventurers are discussing the challenges of the second floor and why it is so profitable. Hikaru acknowledges that describing the labyrinth as one giant spirit stone is not an exaggeration, given the intense level of spirit power it transmits. He also realizes that while looking at the entrance to the dungeon, he can't see what lies ahead even with night vision. Hikaru decides to activate his darkness fog, as he feels it's best not to get stopped or interact with anyone. Hikaru consistently relies on darkness, because it's the only element that can make him disappear, unseen, unnoticed, and forgotten by everyone. As he slowly walks to the entrance cloaked in fog, he passes by a group of adventurers attempting to recruit a lady named Refreya into their party. They believe her presence would help them easily conquer a dangerous mantis monster. However, she politely declines, explaining that she's still in training and can't let her guard down. Hikaru observes that Refreya is a beautiful girl, and his inner thoughts appear to have reached her, because a few seconds after he mentally vocalizes his admiration, she turns around and asks if someone has just passed by her. The other adventurers seem clueless about what she's talking about, and maintain that no one actually passed by them. She reluctantly decides not to think too much about it. Hikaru ponders the challenges that might await him in the labyrinth, and questions the effectiveness of his hastily made dagger against potential monsters. As he arrives at the Grand Malta dungeon, he is struck by the sheer vastness of the place. A noticeable shift occurs as he senses a pull of spiritual energy, coupled with the eerie absence of people. The deserted houses further contribute to a sense of abandonment and long-forgotten mysteries within the labyrinth. As Hikaru's gaze falls upon a stone tomb, the familiar pull of spiritual energy washes over him, prompting a need to lean against the wall and collect himself. The absence of the watchful eyes of Earth viewers in this particular place adds to the overall strangeness, offering a potential connection to its labyrinth nature. Seeking clarity, Hikaru checks his status screen, revealing a steady decrease in his Earth viewers. He notes the significance of viewers as they determine the number of crystals he receives. These crystals, vital for survival, can be exchanged for various essentials like items, water, food, or points, emphasizing the crucial role viewers play in navigating this mysterious labyrinth. As the eerie labyrinth surrounds him with the weight of over 250 lives lost during the 10-day transfer, Hikaru senses the indifference of the viewers, who may be eagerly awaiting his downfall. Undeterred by the ominous atmosphere, he focuses on a walking skeleton, pondering the possibility of earning a spirit stone by defeating it. With resolve, he activates Darkness Fog. There are tiers to the spirit arts. Each time proficiency level reaches 100, the accuracy increases by 1. Hikaru, relying on his technique at maximum output, creates an enveloping darkness with a radius of approximately 10 meters. As he obscures the sight of the walking skeleton, he anxiously awaits a reaction, hoping that the skeletal entity will respond. Hikaru gets close enough to see there's no reaction from the skeleton. He tries undoing the ability after putting some distance between him and the target. There's immediately an impact and reaction on the second try. The opponent is an unarmed skeleton whose movement is slow. Hikaru activates Darkness Fog again and it obstructs the skeleton's vision. Next is to close the distance and it's a wrap. The skeleton is defeated and the body changes into a spirit stone. Hikaru is filled with momentary excitement, because if he can keep on earning spirit stones, then he wouldn't need to depend on the daily bonuses from viewers. The voices and comments from said viewers begin to torment him. They remind him they believe he killed the Nanami. It seems his action of killing the skeleton to get the spirit stone put him in the limelight, when all he wants is to disappear. Back in the real world, everyone is glued to their phones concerning the Nanami murder mystery. There's an ongoing investigation, but all roads lead to one suspect so far, Hikaru. Then, for Hikaru's sake, a ray of hope. It seems like not everyone is against him. Someone believes he's innocent. Someone with a username twin/sis. This mysterious person seems to be a sibling to Hikaru, who also knew Nanami as family and strongly believes that Hikaru is not a murderer. The scene reveals two ladies, Celisa and Karen. Both are preparing for a stream and should be live in 5 minutes. It seems to be part of a strategy to clear Hikaru's name. Back at Hikaru's new world, the voices have decreased. He doesn't know where he is, and it's so dark that he can't make out a path without his night vision. It turns out he's on the second underground floor for hungry beasts. And as if to prove this theory, goblins come out in their numbers. Hikaru is surprised to know these creatures actually exist. Hikaru makes a quick exit, but he's left in tears. Nanami is dead and his family is no more. He doesn't have a home to return to, and all he seems to be protecting at this point is his pathetic life. In the midst of misery, something catches his eye. It's glowing and hidden in a corner. It's a spirit stone. He goes closer to see that some sort of being in armor is what has disintegrated to become a spirit stone. To think he has stooped to the level of scavenging for dead bodies to obtain spirit stones almost makes him laugh. Fighting draws attention he doesn't want from Earth viewers, so his best strategy is to scavenge for what he can get. While deep in thought, Hikaru hears voices. Just on the pathway of the dungeon are a group of people. 3 guys shouting at a girl, saying that she was paid to scout and they best to not have wasted their money. The scouter apologizes, stating she has an injured leg. One of the bigger guys lashes out that her so-called injury is a no-brainer because she never wears footwear. Ultimately, they're frustrated and plan to ditch her because they feel they have no use for her. She pleads for them not to leave her, but they do. She's left alone in tears, still miserably calling after them for what it's worth. Hikaru watches for a while, maybe deliberating ignoring the helpless girl and being on his way. He can't do that though. He would have ignored her if she was human, but she seems to be beastkin. He takes out the equivalents of 5 magic crystals, which gives a medium-grade potion, and he drops the potion for her. She can't see him though, because he has the invisibility cloak over him, but the sudden presence of a potion has her questioning if someone is around. She looks at the potion and wonders if she should apply it to her injured leg. It's her first time using a potion for a wound. As she pours the content of the bottle, she notices that the blood slowly ceases and the wound closes. Amazed, she checks the bottle, and realizes she has just used a medium-grade potion. She can now also see Hikaru and expresses to him how she won't be able to pay for the potion, as she doesn't have any money on her. He tells her he gave it to her out of goodwill, but she still feels indebted to him regardless. In a decisive moment, Hikaru takes the scout's hand and urges her to leave. The encompassing darkness of his cloak extends to envelop her as well. Curious about her bare feet, he learns that scouts prioritize silent movement, and footwear could hinder that. Her unfortunate injury on the second floor caused by an unseen sharp object becomes a reminder of the labyrinth's hidden dangers. It's her turn to ask questions. She asks him if he's a spirit, because she doesn't know anyone else with his ability to cloak in darkness. She knows a couple of light spirit users, but this is the first time she's seeing a dark spirit user. In other words, it's rare, and they should avoid standing out. She begins to orientate him. They are currently in a dungeon, which is a warp of space that happens in the center of a location when more than 3 great spirits are gathered and positioned in a certain manner. They can find great spirits of all 4 elements in the Great Melta Labyrinth. The Beastfolk girl plans to save money and form an alliance with a great spirit. A living spirit that dies in the dungeon becomes a spirit stone like the one Hikaru came across earlier. Same thing goes for monsters created with spiritual powers. The lower one goes down each floor, the stronger the monsters get. It's because in the labyrinth, spiritual powers have a tendency to become a vortex and go underground. It's surprising to the girl that if Hikaru is an explorer, then why doesn't he know as much as he should? Regardless, she goes on to inform him that it's a big no-no for someone to steal treasures from the dungeon. These are treasures that can be found in treasure boxes. These treasures are awarded to specific explorers that find them. Just who gives out these awards? It's the divine beast, Lilamuff, a famous legend among explorers. A treasure is spherical in shape inside the dungeon. When it is taken out of the dungeon, it reverts to its true form. When they're out of the dungeon, Hikaru starts to bid farewell. But before they go their separate ways, there is still one thing she would like to know. She introduces herself as Grapeful, a catfolk, and she would like him to introduce himself as well to her. He replies there's no need to introduce himself because they won't be meeting ever again. He would also prefer she doesn't mention her encounter to someone else. Hikaru is still thinking of the encounter long after. His darkness cloak prevented her from seeing his face, so this means she won't recognize him if they cross paths ever again. He remembers she was nice and taught him a lot. Later on, he takes a load of stuff he gathered from the dungeon and he wants to pawn it off. He receives 10 silver coins for the leather and armor of what was left of the deceased he found at the dungeon. He also offers up for sale the spirit stone he obtained from the skeleton. From the size of it, the skeleton was once a newbie explorer. He could have been offered more money if only the stone were bigger. Hikaru decides his way to survive is keep finding and selling explorer gear and spirit stones, at least for the time being. The second layer of the labyrinth is perfect for scavenging corpses. It's much darker here and easier to get lost. On top of that, strong monsters emerge in droves. It's like an accumulation of conditions that make it easier for an explorer to die. The second layer is surprisingly dirty. It's not what one notices in the darkness, except when they have night vision like Hikaru does. To think Grapeful was walking around barefoot with stuff like sword shards lying around. He scavenged a handful of things he's ready to go back and sell. But just as he's about to leave, 3 explorers walk past and talk about food. One of them discards their rubbish by carelessly throwing it over his shoulder. It hits Hikaru and pisses him off because he can imagine that's how Grapeful ended up hurt. He then sets out to clean the entire floor, piling all the rubbish into a neat heap. He drags it out of the pathway and into a room. From the looks of it, the rubbish is an accumulation of more than several days. He started to understand the structure of the second layer a little better as time has progressed. In terms of size, it's the same as the first layer, but there's a little more to it. Hikaru hears a voice he recognizes. It belongs to Grapeful, who is back to her job of scouting for explorers. Hikaru is relieved to see that the party she has this time is much kinder than the previous one. He wishes them luck as they move on, but he's exasperated to see they've left behind trash that he has no choice but to clean up. Back on Earth, Celisa is live and has everyone curious if Hikaru is actually her brother. She's stating Hikaru is innocent of the crime he's been accused of. Amidst the swirling mysteries of Nanami's demise, Hikaru finds himself caught in a web of suspicion. But an unexpected ally emerges in the form of his sister. With a dramatic flair, she gathers everyone and delivers a revelation that sends ripples through the world. Addressing the elephant in the room, she points out the gaping hole in the murder investigation. No weapon found at the scene. Leaning into her detective instincts, she orchestrates a compelling case for Hikaru's innocence. Her impassioned plea resonates, casting doubt on Hikaru's guilt and leaving the room buzzing with intrigue. The evolving narrative reveals a surprising twist. Celisa and Karen are not only Hikaru's twin sisters, but they are actively working to persuade others of their brother's innocence. However, the challenge remains: how to convey this encouraging news to Hikaru himself, who is navigating the labyrinth with the lingering shadow of suspicion cast upon him. As Hikaru's actions in the dungeon reflect a character dedicated to caring for the environment, the perception of him as a potential killer begins to wane. The unfolding events suggest a more nuanced perspective on Hikaru's situation, offering hope for the truth to emerge and exonerate him. Karen eagerly shares the positive news about the diminishing negativity surrounding Hikaru. The tide seems to be turning, and public sentiment is slowly aligning with the possibility of Hikaru's innocence. Meanwhile, deep in the dungeon, Hikaru's commitment to tidying up the entire floor has evolved into a genuine passion. Originally fueled by the desire to protect Grapeful, this newfound dedication now extends to environmental care and cleanliness within the dungeon. As Hikaru diligently goes about his task, the level of his shadow bag continues to increase, signaling his growing expertise in utilizing this unique ability. The prospect of selling the collected equipment stored in the shadow bag adds a promising financial dimension to his efforts. He checks his status bar and discovers he's gained more followers leading to a crystal. Before he can check the message attached to the status bar, a door he hadn't noticed before suddenly opens. He decides to use a crystal to item appraise the door. It's a treasure warehouse door, a door that the divine beast Lilamuff set up to give gifts to his favorite explorers. Only the recipient of the gift can recognize and go through the door. Hikaru chuckles to himself, recalling Grapeful's animated tales about the legendary divine beast that practically had adventurers swooning. As he cautiously opens the mysterious door, he's met with a surprising sight. Not the glittering gem he anticipated, but a seemingly ordinary glass ball. Scratching his head, he vividly remembers that this peculiar orb is rumored to transform into its true, more dazzling form once he's safely outside of the dungeon. Then, sudden commotion echoes through the surroundings, revealing a group of explorers in the midst of confronting a menacing monster. Amid the chaos, the distinct voices emerge. Refreya and her party are present, strategizing their approach to face a mantis. Her decisive plan involves taking the creature on head-on, while her companions seek refuge. Amidst the looming threat of the threatening praying mantis, Refreya stands resolute. The party members, acknowledging the perils of facing such a formidable foe alone, readily agree to embark on the urgent mission to call for backup. As they dash off in haste, leaving Rifreya to confront the menacing creature, Hikaru observes the impending battle from the sidelines, recognizing the perilous nature of the situation. The mantis, a formidable adversary, looms large, its presence casting an ominous shadow over the impending clash. Rifreya, undeterred by the daunting odds, unveils her plan, to engage in a daring stall, holding the creature at bay until the timely arrival of reinforcements. She charges first with her big sword and lands some good, decisive blows. Hikaru is still on the sidelines, watching and mesmerized. The dungeon itself is a dark and gray space where light doesn't stand a chance. She is the first ray of color and radiance he has seen so far. At some point, she loses her sword and the situation becomes bad. The mantis is hovering with its gigantic claws raised to finish off an unarmed Rifreya. Just when it looks like the mantis will finish things off, Hikaru runs in, casting a shadow bind. The mantis is then enveloped with shadow ropes that restrict its movement. Emboldened by the effectiveness of his dark spirit powers, Hikaru decides to elevate his strategy, unleashing the whimsically named Summer Night Bugs. In a flurry of activity, he orchestrates a mesmerizing display, as countless ethereal bugs materialize to attack the threatening mantis. Each bug carries a hint of otherworldly menace, and their collective assault marks the beginning of a surreal yet compelling battle between the supernatural and the monstrous. Initiating a shadow run, he deftly maneuvers to distract the mantis. Not content with these antics, Hikaru takes a decisive step, shrouding the entire battlefield in a cloak of darkness fog. The intense darkness permeates the surroundings, intensifying the mystique of the encounter. Within this inky veil, the once formidable creature is brought to its knees, succumbing to the orchestrated chaos unleashed by the dark spirit wielder. In the aftermath of the intense clash, a triumphant Hikaru surveys the chaotic spirit stone left behind by the defeated mantis. The victory hints at the possibility of carving out a respectable path as an explorer, a notion that fills him with optimism for the future. Amidst this contemplation, the memory surfaces of Rifreya's party members, who are expected to return with reinforcements Rifreya sought. Recollection intertwines with curiosity, as Hikaru revisits the encounter with the mysterious girl at the dungeon entrance, a girl who sensed his presence when others couldn't. Although she had showcased impressive skills during the battle, she surprises him by blushing, and with a hint of vulnerability, requests him to wait for just a moment longer. His darkness cloak interferes, but she would still like to know a name to a face she can't see. He refuses to give a name. He states that she should be able to make it out of the dungeon with her battle prowess, but she counters that, believe it or not, she doesn't know her way around the labyrinth. Hikaru decides he'll be kind enough to take her to the stairs of the first lair. As Hikaru, still a mysterious figure cloaked in the shadows, rescues Rifreya, he insists on maintaining the secrecy of their encounter. With a mysterious air, he cautions her against revealing the details of their meeting to anyone. However, Rifreya, determined and curious, presses for more. Ignoring Hikaru's plea for anonymity, she persists in her quest to know the identity of her savior. Resolute in her decision, Rifreya, a wielder of light magic, conjures a subtle radiance to illuminate the shadowed countenance of the one who came to her aid. Despite Hikaru's attempt to shroud himself in anonymity, the gentle glow reveals the features of the mysterious benefactor. Rifreya, with a serene smile, acknowledges the face that she'll now carry in her memory. A face that, against Hikaru's intentions, will forever be linked to the moment he became her unlikely savior. Hikaru was surprised by how much light the strange lady he just met was making. She says the light ball she made is called Light, of the light spirit arts, but it's just a basic power that lights things up. She thinks it worked well that day because it let her see his face. She asks for his name, but he reminds her he won't tell her. He wonders why she's acting that way. She explains she used the light to know what he looked like and to thank him for saving her life. Hikaru is uncomfortable by how oddly humble the lady is acting, and he's worried that he's mixed up with the wrong person. The lady apologizes for not being polite and tells him her name is Rifreya Ashbird, a Light Templar apprentice. She mentions that her family always believes in repaying favors and promises to thank him for saving her life. She asks him to promise to tell her his name when the time comes for her to repay the favor. After saying this, she leaves him to think about what she just said. Later in the day, Hikaru returns to the inn, thinking about the encounter with Rifreya. He's troubled that she saw him, especially since he wanted to keep a low profile in this new world. And it's even more concerning that she also uses light spirit arts. After thinking it over, he decides there's no use worrying about it anymore. He has no choice but to trust her, but he resolves to be cautious and avoid being seen further. He then uses his shadow bag to retrieve the treasure from the treasure house and places it on the table. He observes it for a bit to see what happens, because he hears it goes back to its original form when taken out of the dungeon. Soon after, the object transforms, from a round, crystal-polished ball to a semi-liquid substance and then reshapes into a gauntlet. Hikaru is shocked and excited, as he had finally found a gauntlet, something he always wanted but couldn't afford due to the high cost. Hikaru recalls being told that a treasure is a special reward for an explorer, and now he understands why someone might want to steal it. Using one of his crystals, Hikaru appraises the gauntlet, discovering it's a Dark Knight gauntlet, a gift from a divine beast. The gauntlet, made of unique metal and non-reflective leather, is jet black and silent, even when its metal plates touch, making it perfect for stealth. With all the gauntlet's features explained to him and considering it fits perfectly on his arms, Hikaru smiles brightly. He happily collapses onto his bed, continuing to admire the gauntlet. As he lies there, thoughts of Refreya cross his mind. He reflects that since there's no social media or photos, he shouldn't worry about her seeing him. Remembering he saved her from a near-death situation, Hikaru believes he has already done enough for her. Hikaru sits up and checks his status again, finding 83 million people watching him. He worried that the number would increase after the incident with Refreya, but thankfully it didn't. Now he wonders if the viewer's interest has shifted to more impressive transferees. Hikaru thinks about how in this new world, fighting demons is unavoidable for survival. No matter what happens, he has to survive. The next day he returns to the Malta dungeon, choosing a dagger for the fight and deciding to stick to the second floor. Hikaru notices Refreya standing at the entrance as if waiting for someone. At first he wonders if it's him she's waiting for, but then decides to not overthink it. He contemplates approaching her to ask if she's talked about him, but changes his mind, thinking it's better to make her forget about him. He activates his darkness fog, and thankfully she doesn't seem to notice him passing by. Refreya, however, feels a bit down because she can't see Hikaru anymore and assumes he won't come. As Hikaru delves deeper into the dungeon, he tests his dagger skills, realizing they're a bit clumsy after a few swings. The dagger, weighing around 1 kilo, lacks the power and speed needed for battle. He wonders how Refreya manages to effortlessly wield her large sword while he tires from swinging a dagger. Moving on to the second floor, Hikaru searches for weaker monsters and discovers 3 goblins. Goblins can be dangerous in groups, but it's easy to hunt stragglers. Hikaru understands that darkness fog isn't all-powerful, and the goblins can actually smell and hear him. When he kills one, the others become aware of his presence. Realizing the need to use dark spirit arts wisely, he tests a new skill on the goblins. He activates Darkness Fog Maximum Output, instantly turning their vision to pitch black. Hikaru then swiftly strikes one on the head, causing it to fall. Although the second one noticed something strange, it didn't change its actions much. Hikaru takes advantage of this and sneaks behind, stabbing its neck with his dagger. It falls down and dies instantly. Hikaru is surprised when he defeats them with just Darkness Fog. Even goblins that can move in the Dark Labyrinth are helpless in this darkness, where not even a single ray of light penetrates. At that moment, Hikaru realizes he can actually fight, and the previous day's battle wasn't luck. Yet he believes he shouldn't be overly confident. In any situation, even against a goblin, a single strike could prove fatal for him. Thus, he decides it's prudent to proceed cautiously, especially considering there's no rush. He mentions having 20 transparent spirit stones and 4 colored ones, which he believes will cover his lodging and living expenses for the time being. Returning to the entrance, Hikaru is relieved to discover that Refreya isn't there anymore, assuming she likely left after finishing her work. He thinks he should keep an eye out for her for a bit. Hurrying back to the inn before sunrise, to his great surprise, he unexpectedly bumps into Refreya. Realizing Refreya hadn't noticed him, Hikaru seizes the chance to dash into a corner for cover. Peeking out, he sees her patiently waiting at the entrance, determined to find him. At the inn, Hikaru takes a moment to drink water, wondering if it tastes exceptional because of the water spirit. Feeling dirty from earlier battles, he plans to wash up. However, just as he's about to, the innkeeper comes in and warns against bathing in cold water daily to avoid catching a cold, and asks if he ever visits bathhouses. Hikaru asks the man if bathhouses can be open that early in the morning. The innkeeper informs him that bathhouses are open all the time, never closing. Hikaru wonders if he's interested in going to a bathhouse, but he realizes he's being live-streamed 24/7. Finally, since he decides that he's ready to live in this new world, he should see everything as a challenge to overcome. He then asks the innkeeper about the bathhouse, whether it's the kind where you dip in warm water or a steam bath. He inquires about items for washing, towels, and if he can buy milk and coffee there. Hikaru's questions overwhelm the man in a funny way. Later, when Hikaru finally reaches the bathhouse, he's concerned that what he's about to do might be live-streamed worldwide. However, he realizes other transferees have probably also taken a bath in a bathhouse before, so he wouldn't be the first. Hikaru then pays 15 copper coins for a bathing spot. The innkeeper had told Hikaru earlier that the public bathhouse uses the power of the Great Water Spirit to produce clean water, and then they use the power of the Great Fire Spirit to boil it. When Hikaru enters the bathroom, he's relieved to find it nice and empty, except for a few people, which is good for him. He's amazed at how enormous the bathhouse is. Getting into the water, he feels incredibly refreshed, even better than usual, because it's his first bath since arriving in this new world. He recalls taking daily baths in his previous world, something he used to take for granted. While thinking about the past, he notices tears streaming down his face. Swiftly, he immerses himself in the water, trying to hide his tears from the viewers. He thinks they won't be able to tell if he's crying or if it's just water from the bath. As Hikaru keeps remembering the past, he hears 3 boys entering the room while he's still bathing. One of them talks about being tired and is told to wash before entering. Another boy asks if this is the only big bathhouse around, and brags about showers in his homeland. Hikaru wonders if there are showers in this new world too. The boy referred to as Alex is asked about showers, and he explains that a shower is a thing that lets a person take a bath while they're standing, like in the rain. The boy also reminds Alex that he mentioned this new world is an isekai, and that he always talks about interesting things. Hikaru is horrified by the mention of the word isekai. Alex continues expressing disappointment that his friend doesn't believe him. He reminds the boy that he was a diligent student before coming to this other world. His friends then ask what a student is, and ask if it's something amazing. On the flip side, Hikaru starts sweating a lot because he's still scared of the word isekai. He wonders if there are others who got transferred to this new world. Hikaru believes that at this rate he might show up in the guy's stream, and the guy might show up in his stream. If people are watching both at the same time, he could get into trouble. Hikaru decides to quietly leave the bathhouse to avoid any trouble. While leaving, he overhears them discussing a girl, wondering if she was at a particular place that day. When one of Alex's friends mentions a super pretty lady at the dungeon entrance, Hikaru realizes they might be talking about Refreya. One of the boys asks about what happened when he called for her earlier, and Alex explains she mentioned she was searching for an acquaintance. Alex admits he invited her for a meal, but she turned him down. His friends tease him, asking if he's a playboy, but he defends himself, saying it's normal to invite such a cute girl for a meal. Alex suddenly mentions he's receiving messages from his viewers. Upon checking, he reads aloud that his viewers are identifying the black-haired boy about to leave as Hikaru. Hikaru freezes upon hearing his name called out like that. Hikaru turns around and his gaze lands on Alex and his friends, who are looking back at him. Alex calls Hikaru's name again, and Hikaru stays frozen in shock. Alex then asks if Hikaru is the one everyone is talking about, and questions if he's Chinese. Hikaru, still shocked, wonders if Alex is unaware of the Nanami incident. Moreover, when Hikaru left the forest, he was ranked #1 in viewers, making him question how Alex didn't know about the incident. He assumed that if Alex was a transferee, he would be aware of him. Alex emerges from the water and walks over to Hikaru. He's visibly excited, mentioning it's his first time meeting another transferee. He introduces himself as Jack Alexander Fox from Ontario, Canada, but he prefers to be called Alex. He tries to start a conversation with Hikaru, and he discusses the unnerving experience of finding themselves in a different world, likening it to a movie. Nervously, Hikaru agrees with him. Alex admits that before coming he thought he would be okay, but being alone turned out to be tough. His friends messaged him about the guilds, so he managed to join somehow. Hikaru nervously wonders why Alex is being so friendly and if he's scheming something. Alex then asks if Hikaru is alone, and Hikaru confirms. Alex jokingly comments on how Japanese people are stoic, then shifts to talk about how his friends always wanted to come to Japan and explore the abundance of anime and manga there. Alex notices Hikaru responding awkwardly, so he asks what happened, since Hikaru doesn't look good. Hikaru says he's fine. Secretly, Hikaru wonders how many followers he and Alex have combined, thinking this encounter must be interesting for their viewers. Alex's friends join them, asking Hikaru if he's from the same town as Alex and if it's true that Alex is from another world. Alex reminds them that he's already told the truth, but they remain unconvinced, saying they'll confirm with Hikaru. Feeling cornered, Hikaru comes up with excuses, saying he has some work, and suggests talking later. Alex quickly apologizes, expressing excitement about discussing Earth. He mentions frequenting the bathhouse and proposes meeting up another day. Hikaru hastily agrees and rushes off. Back at the inn, Hikaru keeps thinking about the meeting with Alex. He's convinced that Alex suspects him of harming his childhood friend. Surprisingly, Alex talked as if he had no idea. Hikaru secretly hoped that they could be friends, and he wished he had spoken more casually. He blames himself, thinking he acted foolish. 2 office workers from Earth, one tall and slender with dark hair and the other with brown hair, discuss the happenings in a parallel world. The man with the dark hair expresses concern about Hikaru isolating himself in every situation, questioning if he'll be okay. The brown-haired man mentions that even Hikaru's sisters have sent worried messages, but unfortunately they don't seem to be reaching him. As the 2 men head to the vending machine for drinks, they keep talking. The guy with black hair wishes Hikaru had spoken properly with Alex at the bathhouse, because if he had, he could have learned about the guild. The guy with brown hair tells the black-haired man that Hikaru always sells his stuff in the black market, and they trick him by buying things for only half the regular price. The black-haired man offers the brown-haired man a drink from the vending machine and continues the conversation. He mentions that since the dealer buys everything from Hikaru without asking questions, there's nothing they can do about it. The man with brown hair asks Alex if he truly has no information about Hikaru. The man with black hair tells him that there are 82 messages related to Hikaru sent to Alex, with 77 of them being about protecting him. The brown-haired man then wonders if this means most viewers support Hikaru, and suggests that it implies Alex doesn't see Hikaru as a suspect, despite being aware of him. The man with black hair feels happy and relieved when he realizes Alex isn't an enemy. He starts hoping that Hikaru will understand the message soon. The man with brown hair then asks his coworker about Hikaru's darkness fog and wonders if it's too strong. The black-haired man explains that darkness fog is a skill that allows Hikaru to continuously use spirit arts, and it's powerful. This is because to acquire the affection of the spirit skill, a person needed to spend 80 points at the time of transfer. The man with black hair mentions that Hikaru can use his skills 10 times better than the locals. The man with brown hair explains it's a proficiency system, and Hikaru is getting stronger and stronger. The two men shift their conversation to the life coverage of the twin sisters. The man with black hair finds their life story quite interesting. The man with brown hair admits that after Hikaru was declared innocent, he became a fan of the twin sisters. He then asks his black-haired coworker if he supports Cecilia. The black-haired man responds, saying Cecilia is incredibly cute, radiates amazing energy, and has a divine aura. He adds that she doesn't seem like a first-year middle schooler at all. While live covering somewhere else, Karen and Cecilia rewatch Rifreya's interactions with Hikaru. Karen wonders why Rifreya always tries to expose him, and questions if he'll be fine. In her opinion, Hikaru is the kind of brother liked by strange girls. Cecilia corrects her, stating that Rifreya seems normal, but Karen insists Hikaru is bothered by an unwanted admirer. Cecilia finds it surprising that Rifreya can use spirit magic so easily. They speculate that Rifreya might be driven by a strong sense of duty from her family. Cecilia concludes that Rifreya would be a good person for Hikaru. Karen thinks that Hikaru may be easily influenced by attractive women because he's always had a liking for blonde characters. Cecilia suggests Karen consider the situation differently, explaining that it's unlikely a beautiful girl would see their brother as a potential partner. She points out that only Nanami understood his charm, and the people in the New World were unaware of it. Karen starts to see things from Cecilia's perspective, who assures her that everything will be okay. Curious, Karen asks Cecilia about her sudden mysterious confidence. In the isekai world, Hikaru heads towards the dungeon in the evening, but he makes a quick stop at a ship before going there. He decides to leave the Alex situation behind, considering even thinking about it as a risk. Shortly after, he hears a female voice calling for him, and it's Rifreya running after him. When she catches up, she mentions waiting for him at the dungeon entrance, but he didn't show up despite her waiting. Hikaru is shocked. He did briefly consider that she might be waiting for him, but it surprised him that she actually was. As they stand together on the roadside, he senses people looking at them, hearing whispers from passers-by. Some are amazed by the girl's beauty, others are curious about the guy talking to her, and some even wonder if it's a disagreement between them. Hikaru feels trouble brewing as people stare at him, even though he prefers a life without being noticed. To make things worse, he can't use dark spirits in front of them. Deciding the best move is to run away, he swiftly takes off without looking back. Rifreya, on the other hand, is shocked by his sudden departure. Hikaru goes to the back alley, and after walking a bit, he stops to catch his breath, thinking he must have lost her. Surprisingly, Rifreya's voice suddenly comes from behind, asking if he's finished. Startled, he turns around and sees it's her. She says she's found him and asks him to not run away. Acting on impulse, he activates Shadow Bind, making dark shadows appear from the ground, binding her. Next, he activates Darkness Fog and runs away once more. Hikaru notices he's gotten used to living in his new world. Now, he can't get caught, so he must do everything to escape. Rifreya tells him to wait, but he's already too far away. Sitting on his bed at the inn, Hikaru thinks about Rifreya. He can't believe she was looking for him, and he wonders what to do next. After contemplating, he decides it's best to stop overthinking, realizing it's similar to the situation with Alex. The more he thinks, the more his imagination runs wild. Hikaru believes it might be time to leave town soon, but with the money he currently has, he thinks he can't do much. Hikaru covers himself with a darkness fog once more and goes back into the streets. He comes across a lone goblin and decides to defeat it. He remembers that whether he leaves town or not, he needs to exchange spirit stones for cash. When he reaches the entrance of the Malta dungeon, he's relieved to see that Rifreya isn't there. He believes everything is fine because he ran away after using Shadow Bind on her, so she should know he's avoiding her. Returning from the dungeon, he heads to the black market shop to check if he can exchange his spirit stones. Realizing he has been collecting spirit stones gradually, he wonders if they've added up. He calculates that combining all of his spirit stones would give him enough to leave town in case of an emergency. As he's about to enter the shop, someone suddenly grabs his arm. Turning around, he sees it's Refreya, who insists she won't let him run away again. Startled, he asks why she's there. With a proud smile, she explains that there are only a few places for the illegal trading of spirit stones around, so she knew he would show up at one of them. Hikaru wonders what this lady wants from him so badly. There's nowhere else to run. Refreya has cornered Hikaru, and Hikaru just can't understand why she has chosen him. She elucidates that she has searched the whole city, even went to a black market shop because Hikaru wasn't on the guild's roster. She has gone to great lengths to find him, and from the looks of it, she has even patiently waited for him on the streets for a long time. She tells him that she tried waiting in front of the dungeon, but he never showed up. The thing is, he was actually hoping to get useful information from the black market shop, and now he understands that the receptionist must have sold him out. Now that she has finally found him, she pleads with him not to run away again. To ensure he doesn't, she holds onto his hand firmly. Hikaru notes that her grip is surprisingly strong, which seems impossible given her delicate appearance. She wonders why Refreya is so obsessed with him, thinking if there's any benefit to her finding him. He asks what she's going to do with him, contemplating if her goal is to turn him in somewhere as a user of the dark spirit arts, which is illegal. As an unlicensed adventurer, if she catches him, she's able to get a bounty. He doesn't want to go to prison and doesn't want to die yet. Depending on her answer, he will do everything in his power to resist her. Refreya maintains that her intentions are innocent. He saved her life, and she is only looking for a way to repay his kindness. Shocked, he realizes she's not going to turn him into a government office. Still, another part of him wrestles with the idea that it could all be a trap. He screams at her to let him go, insisting he won't be fooled. She maintains he won't run away from her this time. They end up in an argument, with Hikaru insisting that she does not need to thank him, and stating that while she may be good, he is not. This doesn't faze Refreya, who says that he is a little good and that's fine. Hikaru does not understand what is up with the girl who doesn't listen to anything he has to say. He decides he's tired of their back and forth. He corners her to a wall and aggressively reiterates he doesn't need her thanks. He just wants to know what her goal is. She reiterates that he saved her life and she's just trying to say thank you. That's all. Suddenly, her mood changes and she glances away. Now he's confused, asking himself what's with her sudden change. He thinks she might attack him by playing around. She starts off saying that she has fallen in love with him. Yeah, Hikaru, that's both you and the audience who are really confused right now. Even one of his twin sisters back home is shocked at the plot twist. How can someone who just met him be in love with him? Although she can't deny that it's cute when Refreya suddenly goes berserk. Hikaru finally gets involved with other people and she can't believe it's with such a beautiful girl like her. Although she can't say for sure if Refreya's intentions are clear and true. For her, this is an emergency situation, and she has to go wake up her sister and notify her. Hikaru needs to clarify what he just heard. Did Refreya really just tell him she loves him? She explains that it's not like thanking him is an excuse, but she thought she'd be able to see him again if she had a reason. Now he's confused about what she's talking about. First off, she tells him to please refer to her as Refreya. From what he understands now, Refreya is following him around because she has fallen in love with him. She blushes, stating that no matter what, she needed to see him, even though he thinks it's weird. He can't help but think it's all a joke and this must be an act. He's never been liked by a member of the opposite sex, and now, all of a sudden, a beautiful woman like her likes him. He likes the idea of giving into this fleeting happiness, but he needs to understand why she's so interested in him. He did save her back then, but that was just how it turned out, a mere coincidence. That alone shouldn't be enough for her to make such strange assumptions. He knew someone like her, too bright and optimistic. He feels certain that saving her life is just a temporary illusion, but she affirms it's not a misunderstanding. She knows what she's feeling, and it's the first time she's felt this way. She has to leave the city, and just wanted to thank him before she goes. Now he understands that she simply wanted to say thank you. In all likelihood, Refreya was planning to thank him and then go home. He's the one who put up a front for no good reason, jumping to conclusions too easily. He just has to accept her gratitude, which she eagerly wants to express. He apologizes for being weirdly stubborn, and Refreya suggests they go out to eat, making everything feel alright. As she leads him away, she asks if there's any kind of food he doesn't like. She assures him that she will handle it if there is. He knew she would give him something to thank him, and if it's a meal, it will be over soon. Even so, he can't help but notice her beautiful platinum blonde hair, which he's only seen on TV or in pictures. Meanwhile, he has black hair and plain clothes. It's like a princess and her attendant. They look like opposites and shouldn't match. Refreya announces that they've arrived at the restaurant. It's a small, ordinary place, and Hikaru is worried about what kind of place it would turn out to be. She notices him spacing out and pulls him back to reality. One of the waiters greets Refreya by name, and mentions that she's here again, indicating she's a regular. She suggests they go to the back table. She gently commands him to sit and not try to run away, and he replies that he's not trying to run away after getting this far. The waiter hands them their menu, and Hikaru's thoughts wander, as they've been doing so far. Now that he thinks about it, this is his first time entering a restaurant in another world. He's eaten lots of fruits in the forest, but all he could do was eat at stalls. He didn't even have the courage to go into a restaurant alone. Refreya notices a lost look on Hikaru's face and asks what's the matter. He replies it's nothing. Refreya is leaving town. Even if they enjoy today, it wouldn't hurt. Their drinks arrive in fancy cups. Hikaru takes a closer look at his, wondering if it's orange juice. Meanwhile, Refreya has more to get off her chest. She thanks him once again for saving her life in the dungeon. Then they toast with the term campana, which is a new phrase to Hikaru. He takes a sip from his flute and registers it's a new taste. Surprised, he pushes the drink back, asking if it's booze. An amused Refreya asks if it's that bad, as it's common for booze to be quite delicious here. He agrees it's delicious, but she doesn't know that he's a minor, at least by his world's standards. And now he's confused and contemplating if alcohol is okay here. He decides it's a sweet drink and easy to drink, and it's not that strong, so he gulps it all down. Refreya realizes that she doesn't know his name, as she didn't get to ask the other day. Now she would like him to tell her. So he replies his name is Kurosawa Hikaru. The moment it leaves his mouth, he regrets it, feeling he shouldn't have told her his name. But what's done is done. She comments that Hikaru is a good name, and he wonders if she's only teasing him, as Hikaru is quite a feminine name, but it's better than his twin sisters' names, which were named after cars. Refreya realizes that the name isn't from around here. She explains that she's from Siltion, the great light spirit church city, which might be the best way to describe where she's from. She's been practicing light spirit magic for a while now. She might look fragile, but she's an apprentice temple knight should he doubt her. He doesn't even know how to respond to her announcement, unsure if her title is important since it's from a different world. But he goes ahead to ask if she is strong, why she's still an apprentice. She clarifies that if someone is not good at spirit arts, the regular knighthood exam is tough to pass. Now he has ideas of his own, thinking he can become a dark knight then. She misinterprets his facial expression for laughter and insists that she's old enough to be an apprentice. She'll have to pass the regular knight exam soon enough, but he cuts in to apologize, stating he wasn't laughing at her. The booze has just put him in a lightheaded mood, and now he seems to not care about Earth or the people around him. Food is served and he exclaims, "It's a lot of food," wondering if he'll be able to finish it all. He takes a hefty piece of the food and holds it close to his mouth with his fork. It tastes good, and he exclaims that it's been a long time since he's been able to eat anything proper. Refreya notes that this isn't an expensive place, but he doesn't have any money regardless, as all his life he's been alone. This is the first time he's had a meal with someone since coming to another world. When he was in Japan, he had his little sisters and Nanami, but right now he doesn't have anyone to chat with. He was always afraid of the stairs and has been here for a long while without socializing. But today, for the first time, things have changed. Refreya interrupts his thoughts, saying he's crying. He tries to wave it off with nervous laughter, apologizing for his tears, expressing it's been a long time since he's eaten with someone, and the food was delicious too. He's just happy to have been invited. At the very beginning, he thought it was just a simple thank you, but this is more than he thought, and now he earnestly has a thank you of his own for Refreya. She blushes in return, trying not to show that his gratitude has warmed her inside. Knowing that she's leaving town, he reassures her that they might not meet again, so he thanks her once more for the day. He wishes her luck on her Temple Knight exams. Starting tomorrow, he'll be diving again into the dark troubles, but the memory of today will remain with him. As he starts to leave, Refreya tells him to wait, as she's not done thanking him yet. This is only the beginning. He counters that he's had enough and can't take any more, but Refreya states that her family motto in the Ashbird family is to always repay a favor. So meals aren't the only way to thank someone who saved her life. She pulls him down the street, and they arrive at a building he thinks is an inn. Refreya confirms that it is the cheap inn where she's staying. She wants him to come with her inside before people see them. Once inside, she asks him to sit on the bed. She goes about something in her closet, admitting she doesn't have much money. For Hikaru, he feels that if that's the case, she doesn't have to force herself. He's sleepy, so he's just going to head home, but Refreya insists. She changes into a new set of clothes and then starts unbuttoning her blouse, blushing and saying that this is the only thing she can think of to thank him properly. Refreya takes off her clothes, revealing an ample amount of her bosom. The terrified and shocked Hikaru just stares at her before stuttering that he really doesn't understand what is happening. He asks if this is a kind of gratitude common in this place. She reaches out to turn off the lamp, dropping her robe and exposing her undergarments. She affirms that such an act of gratitude is uncommon here. At this point, Hikaru has turned his face away from her body, while she muses that she knows her body is worth something, but she doesn't really have any experience, so she doesn't know if she'll be able to please him well. Hikaru turns to her earnest eyes as she sits beside him, sweat breaking out around his forehead. He says that her body is definitely worth it, but no matter how many coins she puts, there's no price to it. There is no price to her body. Refreya replies that she doesn't think her body's of that much value, but she'd be happy if he thought so. Besides, she can't lie about actually liking Hikaru. She starts to pull down the hem of her undergarment and he places a hand on her shoulder. Then he tells her that she should think of the scenario where it was a man who wasn't him that saved her. Would she still go ahead and act like a prostitute? Taken aback, she asks him why he would call her that. With his hand still on her shoulder, he looks her straight in the eyes and promises that there's no difference. He doesn't say the rest out loud, but he thinks she's an idiot, even though she has what it takes to be smart. She has eyes that look like they saw something wild, and she's short-minded, thoughtless, and self-conscious. She's a softie at heart. She confesses that she really couldn't think of any other way to thank him, and that truthfully she was looking forward to pleasing him based on her feelings. She didn't see the idea as a bad one. Hikaru, stepping out of the darkness, realizes there's a lot more to life now. He tells Refreya that explorers are supposed to help each other out, and shouldn't worry about lending or borrowing every little thing. If she wants to thank him no matter what, treating him to a meal is enough. The truth is, he didn't actually know how to be an adventurer, and what occupation people really did there was haunting. Although he knows that helping each other out without expecting exuberant returns was way more common there. He admits that he's a guy and finds her very tempting because she is beautiful and attractive. But if she's offering herself as a form of thanks, he has to give it a hard pass. After his speech, Hikaru's status bar appears, and he sees his real-time viewers have increased massively. They're watching this scene with a great interest. Spending time with Refreya was easy, but he's just trying to cover up his loneliness. If he gets any more involved, the viewers will see Refreya too. Her dignity is the only thing that matters to him, which is why he's even more determined to ensure nothing indecent happens between them. He tells her that he's received enough thanks and warns her to never strip for him again. As he's about to leave, she grabs his hand yet again. Oh, Refreya, you really won't let Hikaru go, will you? She pleads with him to not leave, expressing that while his scolding has been effective, she fears she might make another mistake without his guidance. If he leaves, she might end up following someone else. Hikaru wonders if this is a threat, considering her adamant stance now that she's mentioned potentially following someone else. He notes her manipulation skills and asks about her age. She replies that she's 16, a year older than he, which surprises him as he thought she was older. But seeing that she's older and old enough, he feels that she should be able to think for herself. He has no obligation or right to interfere with her choices. Refreya asks if this means he doesn't mind her going with him. Hikaru insists he doesn't want her to go. Refreya asks why. Hikaru replies it's because she's beautiful. Refreya wonders if he's worried about her being hurt. No, he clarifies, it's because of her beauty. He doesn't want her harmed. Unexpectedly, Refreya fiercely hugs him and admits she's happy with him. Straddling him, she says it's okay because it's him she wants. She insists she's never felt this way with anyone else, and his warmth is irresistible. Hikaru tries to calm her, knowing she's still drunk and not listening. Refreya flirts, mentioning he was the first to call her you. Hikaru urges her to drink less to avoid a mistake, but she insists she's fine, and what she wants will happen now. She questions if he thinks she's only acting this way because she's drunk. She claims she wouldn't dare do something so bold unless intoxicated. Hikaru pleads with her to not go through with it. Refreya teases she'll leave or find someone else if he doesn't act. She then takes his hand, placing it on her chest, confessing her feelings. Blushing, she mentions she's been searching for him, thinking about intimacy. She leans in, saying she enjoyed their time together and kisses him. A strange alert suddenly interrupts, announcing news to the otherworldly transferees. Starting tomorrow, they'll begin a 2-week viewer count race, offering a grand prize to those with the most viewers. All transferees can participate, and the highlight is the Orb of Resurrection, an opportunity to bring back a deceased loved one. Hikaru gently nudges Refreya aside, visibly troubled. She asks what's wrong. He struggles to comprehend the announcement's mention of the Orb of Resurrection. Checking the status bar for clarification, he learns the orb can revive those who died on Earth or in another world. Winning first place in this race means he could bring Nanami back to life. Rewind to some time ago. Hikaru and Nanami find themselves together in an empty classroom after school. The silence is palpable until Nanami decides to break it by asking Hikaru a rather personal question: if there was anyone he currently liked in a romantic way. The question takes Hikaru by surprise, as expected, and he reveals he doesn't feel like there's a need to have a romantic interest at the moment. Nanami's curiosity is piqued, and she further probes about Cecilia and Karen, the cute girls who are often seen around Hikaru. She wonders aloud if they might be the reason Hikaru doesn't show any interest in other girls at school. Hikaru quickly clarifies that Cecilia and Karen are his sisters, and one isn't supposed to develop romantic feelings for their siblings in that way. With a hint of embarrassment, Hikaru admits that he thinks he's a little late to the game when it came to the matters of the heart. But Nanami isn't finished yet. She reveals that she's curious about what kind of person Hikaru would eventually fall in love with. Would he fall for her if the person was as stunningly beautiful as a celebrity? Hikaru points out that the possibility of that happening is very low. Someone of that level of beauty would surely operate on a different wavelength from him, as he's just an ordinary guy. How would they even find common ground or get along? Their worlds would certainly be too different. Unfazed, Nanami gently chides Hikaru for having such low self-esteem, insisting he should think better of himself. She ends the conversation by posing a hypothetical situation. What would Hikaru do if a woman of breathtaking beauty confessed her romantic feelings for him? Little did they know that very situation would unfold before Hikaru's eyes in the near future. He finds himself drawn away from his thoughts by the stunningly beautiful woman standing before him, Rifreya, who has just confessed her feelings to him. She looks a little worried due to the way that he had drifted off, and she is even more shocked by his next move. Hikaru draws Rifreya into his arms for a warm embrace, making her gasp in surprise. It was then that he concludes he must do everything in his power to win first place in the upcoming viewership competition, even if that means selling his soul to the devil. And by that he's referring to potentially using Rifreya as a means to an end. He tells her that he has changed his mind, and decided to accept her thanks, a euphemism loaded with implication. Rifreya says it's okay, but inquires as to why Hikaru has suddenly decided to change his stance. Hikaru reveals that certain circumstances have warranted this latest development, and he goes ahead to suggest an appointment for them to meet later. Rifreya is surprised they aren't going to act on it today. Hikaru assured her that he very much wants it, and she isn't willing to give herself to any other man. His plan is to reveal himself to the viewers in a way that would make them hate him, figuring that their hatred would only attract more viewership, which would be needed to win the competition and obtain the much-coveted Orb of Resurrection. However, Rifreya discloses that she doesn't have a problem with the reservation, except that she has already planned to leave the city almost immediately. She reveals her decision to go back home with her friends who have already left the city. Hikaru's appreciation seems to be the only thing stopping her from following suit right away. From her words, Hikaru deduces and she confirms that she is planning to stop being an adventurer altogether. Rifreya shares that she has tried to go it alone but failed, and it seems she can't do it with anyone else either. She urges Hikaru to accept her appreciation now, as she might find it hard to come back once she returns home. Hikaru has to think quickly about his next move from here. He could tell that their potential time together would for her just be a fleeting memory of her trip. However, he has already made up his mind to use her, and he knows that she is so crucial to him getting first place in the competition, so he decides to take control of the situation with his next bold move. Surprisingly, Hikaru invites Rifreya to team up with him, claiming that he needs her, and can't possibly let her go. As expected, Rifreya is taken aback and pulls away for a moment. She notes that Hikaru had suddenly changed from the person he was just moments ago, and she seeks to understand what's going on. Hikaru agrees with her observation, saying that he knows how much he has changed. However, he promises to explain everything in the end and asks her to bear with him until then. Rifreya agrees to this, noting that anyone as strong as Hikaru in the spirit arts is certainly welcome to team up with her. Now that the matter is settled, Hikaru offers to pick her up in the morning, and he reassures her with a kiss on the cheek, leaving the beautiful lady stunned and at a loss for words. On his way out, he takes another look at her. A lady as beautiful as Rifreya certainly ought to be enough to boost his viewership, winning him first place in the competition. Hikaru is determined to do whatever it takes to win, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, the viewers are thrown into a frenzy with the latest happenings in the other world. Most of their comments reference Rifreya's stunning beauty, while others talk about the way Hikaru had initially refused her advances, even after she had thrown herself at him. Whether good or bad, Hikaru's viewership seems to have grown exponentially with the appearance of Rifreya. Meanwhile, on the more logical side of the internet, people try to figure out the intention behind Hikaru's latest baffling action. Cecilia and Karen, after stumbling across the Orb of Resurrection, deduce that he intends to resurrect Nanami, which is why he is so determined to win by any means necessary. As a result, the twin sisters decide to do their part, to help their older brother achieve his goal. They announce that they intend to do a live translation and report of Hikaru's main broadcast for the next 2 weeks, which is the duration of the competition. In their video, the girls encourage everyone to watch Hikaru more and help pilot him to first place in the viewership rankings. Rifreya can't stop thinking about how she is meeting Hikaru, the man whom she believes is destined for her. She is recalling how he came from the shadows and had her heart beating in ways she couldn't control. Was it due to the life-threatening crisis at hand, or could it just be because she has met her first love? Rewind to some time ago. It's a normal day for Rifreya and her companions, as they're getting ready to explore the dungeon. On their way to the dungeon, they're starting their regular girl talk, a conversation that Rifreya is hardly a part of. The girls are asking Claudia, who is confirming that she is no longer going out with her previous partner. According to Claudia, it looks like he was playing around, with no intention of settling down. The girls are teasing Claudia about her breakup, and then one of them is noting that Rifreya hasn't contributed to the conversation. Rifreya is asking them to mind their business, but it's too late. The teasing hammer has already landed on her. Rifreya's friends are teasing her, calling her a little girl who has yet to experience love. However, they're also noting that her body is far from small, teasing that she could stand to share some of her beautiful body with them. Even more than her companions, Rifreya has big dreams. She intends to get stronger and pass the Temple Knight exam. For this reason, she decides to go to Meltia to undergo training. Her instructor is revealing that spirit arts improve with practice, and that one cannot hope to become a Temple Knight without using the 4th technique, Phantom Ray. Determined to become a Temple Knight, Rifreya is constantly practicing this technique but failing to improve, no matter how hard she tries. In the end, Rifreya is giving up on her dreams, concluding that she lacks the talent and could never stand out. She's going back to her companions as they continue to explore the labyrinth. However, on this fateful day, something is happening in the labyrinth. Rather than that, a blend of different factors in the labyrinth is putting them in grave danger of death. Even though they are overcoming their present level, some of them are getting hurt and might not be able to fight monsters anytime soon. They are all looking to Rifreya, awaiting her instruction on whether to go back or advance through the dungeon. Rifreya knows that she's also at her limit, but something keeps pushing her to continue, as if fate has something in store for her. They eventually are continuing to push forward, mostly relying on Rifreya's spirit arts without talent. Soon enough, they're getting to a point where Rifreya knows she can't continue to risk their lives for her sake. She is suggesting that they head back, and they all agree. Unfortunately, they're attacked by monsters while trying to head out. The mantis is attacking Claudia and knocking her out. The others aren't in the best shape to fight, so Rifreya must step up once again. She's locking horns with the mantis and trying to hold her own as long as possible. She is yelling at her companions to go up and get help as soon as possible while she tries to defeat the monster. While she's fighting bravely against the monster, it quickly becomes clear she can't protect herself for that long. Rifreya is surrendering to the cold hands of death, but she's saved by a voice she hears in the shadows, Shadowbind. The stranger in the shadows is a user of the dark spirit arts, and he's using it effectively to save Rifreya's life. Rifreya soon concludes that she feels hot, not because it's her destiny to be killed here, but because it's her destiny to meet her savior here. Rifreya is trying to get a glimpse of her hero Hikaru, but it seems that Hikaru doesn't want to be seen by anyone. She is finally putting her light spirit arts to good use, dispelling the darkness around just to get a glimpse of his face. She's always seen light spirit arts as a symbol of failure, but they've certainly served their purpose today. Rifreya is thinking about what she can do to repay him, so she decides to make a promise to see him again. She is promising that when they see each other outside of the labyrinth, she'll surely repay him for saving her life. Meanwhile, Claudia and the others are back and searching for help to save Rifreya before it's too late. While still describing the urgency of the situation, they are surprised to see her coming back unhurt. From that day onwards, Rifreya is only thinking about meeting the man who saved her life. She is building up their conversation in her head, and she starts to wonder different things about him, like his favorite food, his favorite color, and even the tone of his laughter. The more time passes while she thinks about Hikaru, the more her feelings grow for him. She's more than determined to find and repay him for saving her life. Then, one day, she finally finds the man whom she believes is her destiny. Hikaru, the man in the darkness. Back to the present, everyone pays rapt attention to their devices for a good reason. D-Day has finally come. The first viewer count race has officially begun. Hikaru looks at his status and sees his viewers currently at 192 million. The duration of the race is 2 weeks. It's announced that the players who gained some points from the point-alone system can't use them to play. Otherwise, they'd risk being disqualified. Thankfully, Hikaru doesn't fall into this category. The key to victory in this race is simply to increase the number of viewers obtained during the period of the race. Hikaru introduces himself to the viewers. At first, he intends to tell them about his determination to win first place for Nanami, but he kicks against it because he feels they might not believe him. He tells them about his intention to form a party with Refreya. Hikaru uses his 5 points to increase his strength. With this upgrade, he can surely venture into deeper parts of the dungeon than before. He's satisfied for now. Hikaru waits for Refreya to show up. He recalls the events of the previous night and knows that there's a slight chance she won't remember what happened. After all, what happened was a bit embarrassing for both of them. Refreya suddenly peeks from the other side of the wall. Hikaru is surprised to see her, and she's curious about who Hikaru has been engaged in a conversation with. Hikaru struggles to answer the question but fails, so he smartly switches the conversation, asking if she got enough sleep the previous night. She confesses that just like Hikaru, she could hardly get some sleep. Hikaru asks if she remembers what happened between them the previous day. This is a make or break point for Hikaru. Thankfully, she hasn't forgotten anything, including the promise she made to him. Hikaru ponders telling her the truth but quickly brushes the thought aside. He needs her, and he certainly can't risk anything that might make her turn him down. Hikaru reveals that he's a beginner, so if they're to work together, she must take him under her wing and teach him the things he doesn't know. Well, she certainly intends to teach him a lot, so that's not a problem. She stops Hikaru from heading straight to the dungeon, reminding him that they must first go to the guild. Hikaru has no idea what that is, confirming her suspicion that he's not a registered adventurer at the guild. The Labyrinth Administration, commonly known as the Guild, is a place where the adventurers have been tasked with subjugating monsters and retrieving the Spirit Stone. One must apply for it if they want to go into the dungeon. Hikaru reveals that he knew nothing of this, and was always in the dungeons in secret. Refreya advises him not to disclose this to anyone else, as he risks getting arrested if the wrong person finds out. When he asks, Refreya reveals to Hikaru that anyone, as long as they're not a criminal, can register to be an adventurer in the guild. She also reveals that Hikaru's strength level makes her sure that he can level up to Gnome class in next to no time. Again, Hikaru is left clueless, so it falls on her to explain. Adventurers have ranks from 1 to 6. Rank 1 is the Spiritist class. The Dryad class is rank 2, and rank 3, which is Refreya's rank, is known as the Sylvester class. Rank 4 is known as the Gnome class, rank 5 is the Undying class, while rank 6, the highest rank, is known as the Salamander class. Adventurers who are ranked higher can venture into deeper and more dangerous floors of the dungeon. Refreya urges Hikaru to complete his registration as soon as possible. On their way to the registration counter at the guild, they come across a few faces that are unfamiliar to Refreya, but well known to Hikaru. The boys look like your typical high school bullies, and they show how similar they are by teasing Refreya and her new companion Hikaru. They ask if she's starting a club, referring to the beginner ladies who swing clubs on the first floor. Refreya yells at them to stop being rude, and she reveals they're about to form a party. The guys are surprised and a little jealous that Refreya intends to form a party with a kid. They surround him and ask for his rank. Meanwhile, all Hikaru can think about is how to play this to his advantage. He reasons that if he gets beat up or something like that in front of Refreya, the viewers will certainly be happy. Refreya is about to tell them about his use of dark spirit hearts when he shuts her up with his hands. He tells the guys that he's only about to register, so he'll certainly start from the bottom class. The guys feel less threatened now, and suspect that Hikaru is Refreya's little brother. One of them explains the club joke to Hikaru, saying he meant no harm. He also advises Hikaru, saying that the one who doesn't know their place is usually the first to die. Hikaru thanks him for his advice, teasing him by offering him a club after now. Refreya is very embarrassed by Hikaru calling her his older sister. The guys on their way out leave the door open for Refreya to join their party if she wishes. Once the guys go, Refreya reveals her displeasure at Hikaru referring to her as an older sister, but Hikaru plays it down, telling her not to take a lie so seriously. He says he only did that because he looked like the kind of guy who could give him good advice. Refreya still isn't happy, so Hikaru reassures her with a hug from behind, making everyone around envious of the couple. A little while later, Hikaru finally registers as an adventurer. As expected, he's placed in the Spiritist class. Refreya reveals that they're okay with the combat part of exploring the dungeon, but they need a scout to complete their party. Hikaru actually has an idea on someone who might agree to scout for their new party, so they go to the cat cafe in search of her. Cat beastmen, relatively weak when compared to other races, can be hired as scouts for 5 guaranteed silver coins. When they get into the cafe, Hikaru calls out to Grapeful, saying he would like to hire her. Grapeful is one of the cats there, but she doesn't understand why such an inexperienced party would want to hire her. She makes it clear that she can venture as deep as the 3rd level, so she's no ordinary scout. Then Hikaru asks her about the potions from the other day, referencing the time he saved her back in the dungeon. She realizes this immediately and recognizes Hikaru. Grateful finally remembers who Hikaru is, and gets really excited. She tells him she didn't expect to see him there, and thanks him for saving her last time. Hikaru asks if she can scout, and she responds that she can, but it's just her. After he agrees, she says she'll get ready and asks him to go on ahead. He tells her to meet him in front of the labyrinth later. Feeling a bit jealous, Rifreya asks Hikaru if he knows Grapeful. Hikaru explains that Grapeful had injured her legs on the 2nd floor before and was stuck, so he helped her back to the entrance. Rifreya becomes even more jealous and upset that Hikaru has helped another girl besides her. Hikaru reassured her, saying he couldn't ignore someone in trouble, and that it wasn't anything serious. Rifreya reflects for a moment, before Hikaru suggests they move ahead, as Grapeful would join them later. Rifreya then suggests they get new weapons before heading to the labyrinth. Hikaru is surprised to see Rifreya take him to a blacksmith's shop. The blacksmith initially asks if Rifreya has come for maintenance on her sword, but she explains that she wants him to craft a weapon for Hikaru in the meantime. Shocked, Hikaru asks if she can really afford it. The blacksmith reassures him, saying that despite the quality of his weapons, they're reasonably priced. He then hands Hikaru a sword, and asks him to swing it to gauge his strength. Though Hikaru has never properly swung a sword before, he does his best. After observing, the blacksmith estimates Hikaru to be around rank 9. Confused, Hikaru asks what a rank is, and the blacksmith, surprised by his ignorance, turns to Rifreya, jokingly asking if Hikaru is a country bumpkin. Rifreya laughs and says it's something like that. Rifreya explains to him that rank reflects an adventurer's own strength, which increases by defeating monsters. Similarly, the more an adventurer uses spirit arts, the higher their rank becomes. Hikaru wonders about the difference between rank and a level, until the blacksmith interrupts by asking what kind of weapon he wants. Hikaru, recalling his battle style of fighting in the dark, realizes he needs a high-risk, close-range weapon that would make observers nervous. He then tells the blacksmith that he needs a short sword. Rifreya adds that Hikaru is also a highly skilled mage. The blacksmith wonders if Hikaru needs the sword for self-defense. Hikaru suggests it might be quicker if he demonstrates his fighting style, but Rifreya is concerned, as it could be difficult since they're not in a labyrinth. However, Hikaru reassures her that it's fine because the shop is dimly lit. He then activates his dark fog skill, enveloping the entire shop in pitch black. The blacksmith, impressed by the eerie nature of the dark spirit art, tells Hikaru that it would make the perfect weapon for him, and asks them to return the next day to collect it. Hikaru meets up with Grapeful and apologizes for keeping her waiting. Grapeful asks if it will just be the 3 of them entering the labyrinth together. Hikaru responds that while it's fewer than usual, he's confident it'll be fine, as they're only going to the 2nd stratum. He reasons that although an adventuring party typically consists of around 6 people, being a bit reckless might boost the viewer count. Grapeful praises Hikaru's impressive spirit arts, and also mentions that Rifreya is quite famous. Hikaru is surprised to hear this, and Grapeful explains that although cat beastmen don't fully grasp human standards of beauty and ugliness, they know many people want to date or marry Rifreya. Hikaru likens this to how celebrities and music idols are admired on Earth. Rifreya confirms Grapeful's words, admitting that the attention she gets for her appearance can be frightening. She then holds Hikaru close, telling him he needs to protect her, to which he responds she's already stronger than he is. Rifreya explains to Hikaru that if he fights without using spirit arts, she would be stronger than him, but with them, he is the stronger one. She then gazes at him with puppy dog eyes and asks if he truly doesn't intend to protect her, to which he firmly declares that as long as she's with him, he will absolutely protect her. Suddenly, Grapeful asks Hikaru if he and Rifreya are dating, as she can smell the love between them. Embarrassed, Hikaru clarifies that his promise to always protect Rifreya wasn't meant in that way. After the small talk, the trio enters the labyrinth, and it doesn't take long for them to encounter 2 ogres. As they prepare for battle, Hikaru asks Rifreya if she can handle one of the ogres in a one-on-one fight, and she confidently assures him that she can. Hikaru rushes forward, leaving one ogre for Rifreya while he takes on the other. He activates a dark fog, blinding one of the ogres, and he summons a Shadowrunner clone to distract the other. Rifreya fights the distracted ogre while Hikaru engages the other one. Hikaru realizes that thanks to the strength boost he gave himself earlier, his body feels lighter, almost as if it belongs to someone else. Seizing an opportunity, he activates his Shadow Bind skill, trapping the 2 ogres. Right on cue, he and Rifreya simultaneously defeat the creatures. Hikaru praises Rifreya for a job well done, and asks if she's hurt, but Rifreya casually mentions that it was mostly one-sided. Grapeful, watching from the sidelines, is pleased that they've lived up to her expectations. As they relish their victory, Hikaru suddenly realizes that while hunting on the second level is easy for them, it won't boost their ratings enough to bring Nanami back to life. Noticing Hikaru lost in thought, Rifreya asks if something is wrong. He dismisses it, saying it's nothing, and suggests they move on to the next floor. After completing the day's mission, Hikaru returns home, and notices his audience viewership has surpassed 200 million. However, he knows it's still not enough, as his goal is to reach 1 billion views to reach the top spot. Determined, he decides that in order to achieve this, he'll need to take on more thrilling, high-stakes battles. At that moment, Hikaru is ranked 32nd, with 30 days remaining. On the second day of the viewer count race, Hikaru and Rifreya return to the blacksmith shop as instructed to pick up his weapon. Upon their arrival, the blacksmith presents the sword to Hikaru, explaining that the sheath and hilt are crafted from black cherry wood, while the blade is forged from black meteoric iron. Hikaru is immediately filled with excitement as he grips the short black sword, appreciating its completely dark appearance. Rifreya adds that the black color suits Hikaru perfectly, given his connection to the spirit of darkness. The blacksmith goes on to explain that the sword is made from a rare iron called amafugane, which is said to be favored by the goddess of the night, making it an excellent match for dark spirit arts. Hikaru beams with joy, remarking on how light the sword feels and expressing how much he likes it. Rifreya notes how happy Hikaru looks, pointing out that he rarely smiles like that. The blacksmith assures Hikaru that his emotions are normal, as weapons and adventurers are inseparable. He advises Hikaru to treat the weapon as his new partner and to take care of it. After finishing their business with the blacksmith, Hikaru and Rifreya decide to take a stroll around the area. On the way, Hikaru admits that he's nervous, since it's his first time wielding a proper weapon, but he's also eager to try it out in the labyrinth. Rifreya then changes the subject, suggesting that since they're in the Great Spirit of Fire district, they should take the opportunity to grab lunch. Hikaru looks confused, likely because it's the first time he's heard about the Great Spirits district. Rifreya explains that the city is built around the labyrinth, with temples dedicated to the Great Spirits in each of the 4 districts: the Earth Temple in the north, the Wind Temple in the east, the Fire Temple in the west, and the Water Temple in the south. Hikaru is amused by Rifreya's explanation, and recalls that Grapeful once told him that the Great Meltia Labyrinth is home to fire, water, wind, and earth spirits. Rifreya confirms that this is common knowledge. She elaborates, explaining that since the western area is the domain of the Great Spirit of Fire, there are many blacksmiths and excellent restaurants there, as cooking relies heavily on fire. The two take a seat on the patio of a restaurant, where Hikaru promises to treat Rifreya to a meal, as thanks for introducing him to the blacksmith. As Hikaru eats, he feels an urge to enter the labyrinth as soon as possible, but he also realizes that dining with Rifreya could help him gain viewers. So, for the moment, he relaxes. Suddenly, Hikaru senses something and is startled. Rifreya notices his reaction and asks what's wrong. He asks if she can feel the spiritual energy he's sensing, but she says she feels nothing. Without warning, Rifreya tells Hikaru to look behind him. He quickly turns around to see a massive, flame-wreathed creature approaching. Hikaru asks what kind of creature it is, and Rifreya tells him it is the Great Spirit of Fire. Rifreya assures Hikaru that the Great Spirit of Fire won't attack them like the monsters do. However, she does wonder why it's outside of the temple. Hikaru asks if it's unusual to see a spirit outside, and Rifreya confirms it is. She explains that great spirits are typically worshipped in shrines to keep them confined to one place, and doing so requires many sacrifices. When Hikaru asks what she means by sacrifices, Rifreya cryptically replies it is not a pleasant story to tell. As the fire spirit draws closer, Hikaru notices it is bound by chains, with several priests following behind holding them. He begins to wonder whether they are truly safe, given that they claim the spirit doesn't harm people. Suddenly, Hikaru mysteriously hears the spirit's voice in his mind, whispering about how it smelled something delicious that wants to be eaten and loved by it. Hikaru began to recall an incident from the 4th day after his transfer, which had taken place a few months earlier. While wandering through the forest, he heard a similar voice echoing in his mind. At that moment, he realized something dangerous was nearby, and instinctively he cloaked himself in the darkness fog. As the shadows around him spread, he couldn't help but wonder what was causing the disturbance. Gripping his barrier stone tightly, he remained still, alert to his surroundings. Suddenly, a spirit approached him, drawing so close that he could feel her breath as she whispered in his ear. Startled and frightened, Hikaru immediately activated the barrier stone, enveloping himself in a protective, transparent dome. The spirit, unfazed, mused aloud about the stone's mysterious power, commenting on how the closer she tried to come, the farther away he seemed to move. Intrigued and cautious, Hikaru asked her who she was. In response, the female spirit questioned if he had forgotten her, reminding him that he had often called her cheap in the past. She then proposed something even more unsettling, that they break free from their shackles and unite as one. Confused, Hikaru wondered what she meant by saying he had called her that, especially since he hadn't addressed anyone in such a manner since arriving in the other world. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of the spirit's words. Before he could ask more, the spirit shifted her tone and inquired about the purpose of his journey. Ignoring her question, Hikaru's thoughts quickly turned to how he might escape. He was well aware that the spirit could see through the barrier, and there was no telling what she might do once the barrier's protection failed. The shadowy spirit continued to float around, affectionately referring to Hikaru as her love, while pleading with him to hurry and break the spell that bound them. Hikaru, growing frustrated, shouted at her, demanding that she stop toying with him and leave. Unfazed, the spirit merely shrugged and dismissed his request, before confidently adding that she already knew everything he desired. Hikaru was taken aback when she suddenly demonstrated her power by casting the Shadow Bind spell, effortlessly restraining a massive, flaming monkey that had appeared in the area. Stunned by the display of shadow magic, he could only watch as the spirit smirked and announced that since this was their first encounter, she wanted to offer him a gift. With a wave of her hand, she unleashed her shadow powers once more, instantly annihilating the fiery creature. As she prepared to leave, the spirit turned to Hikaru with a cryptic smile, telling him the next time they meet, he should let her devour him. Back in the present, Rifreya notices Hikaru spacing out once again, his face drenched in sweat. Concerned, she asks him if he's feeling alright. Hikaru hesitates for a moment before confessing that the fire spirit they've encountered might actually be after him. Puzzled by his words, Rifreya says she doesn't understand what he means, but Hikaru only responds, he'll explain everything later. Acting quickly, he reaches into a shadow portal and pulls out a barrier stone, immediately activating its protective dome. Hikaru believes that if the entity before them is truly the Great Spirit of Fire, then much like the Great Spirit of Darkness, it will be targeting him. As he braces for what's to come, he wonders whether the barrier will be strong enough to shield both him and Rifreya. Finally, the Great Spirit of Fire turns its gaze toward Hikaru and declares it has found him. As the fire spirit continues to stare down at Hikaru, he desperately prays that the barrier will work just as it did before. Just as the fire spirit stretches out its hand to grab him, it is blocked by the barrier, causing it to grow frustrated. After a moment, the spirit attempts to break through the barrier using brute force. Hikaru becomes increasingly fearful that the great fire spirit might actually destroy the barrier. Fortunately, the fire spirit realizes it cannot break through, and in frustration runs off in the opposite direction. After the spirit leaves, Rifreya asks Hikaru about the barrier there inside. Hikaru explains that the stone barrier is a special defense against danger, which is why the great fire spirit couldn't touch them. He adds that without the barrier, they would have been devoured. Shocked by this revelation, Rifreya asks Hikaru if he is a loved one. Hikaru replies that he doesn't know, and wonders whether he received gifts that would mark him as one. After a pause, he asks her what it meant to be a loved one. Rifreya immediately warns him that if he is indeed a loved one, he shouldn't stay in town. She also asks if he has ever experienced being stared at or laughed at. Hikaru thinks for a moment and exclaims that he remembers. He then asks her what it all means. She explains that this is the trait of the loved ones. Spirits gather around them. Hikaru suddenly realizes that the gazes he has felt up until that moment weren't from onlookers, but from spirits. Rifreya then mentions that there's something she doesn't quite understand, and asks him how he's able to use spirit arts despite being a loved one. Confused, Hikaru asks what she means. Rifreya explains that loved ones aren't supposed to be able to learn spirit arts, as it requires making a contract with a great spirit. If a loved one tries to form such a pact, the great spirit would devour them. At that moment, Hikaru realizes that this is probably why both the great spirits of darkness and light remarked that he looked delicious. Rifreya continues, explaining that because the great spirits are attracted to loved ones, if someone from the temple were to discover Hikaru, they would likely try to sacrifice him. She begs him to keep all of this a secret between them. Hikaru finds it amusing that the first gift he received turned out to be a trap like this, and it's even more ironic that it's called being a loved one when he knows he's the hated one. After Hikaru and Rifreya finish their meal, they continue their walk. Curious, Hikaru asks if the Great Spirit can appear in labyrinths. Rifreya explains that great spirits can't manifest there. Instead, it is a demon lord who appears. Surprised, Hikaru asks what a demon lord is, and Rifreya is shocked that he's been entering and exiting the labyrinth without knowing. Hikaru chuckles, reminding her that he's already mentioned he's a beginner. Rifreya then explains that a demon lord is the embodiment of pure evil, forming when the chaotic spiritual energy swirling around the labyrinth stagnates and gathers. Hikaru wonders if they're different from regular monsters. Rifreya clarifies that while monsters are a mix of various spirits, including chaotic ones, the demon lord is made entirely of chaos spirits, making it far more dangerous. She warns Hikaru that the greatest threat in the labyrinth is the appearance of a demon lord, urging him to be cautious. When he asks why, she tells him it's because demon lords are also especially drawn to loved ones. However, she reassures him, saying that powerful demon lords rarely manifest. Hikaru confides in Rifreya, telling her that regardless of the circumstances, he's relieved that he shared the truth about being one of the loved ones with her. He admits that had luck not been on his side, things could have taken a much darker turn. He could have been hunted, or worse, he might have ended up dead. Rifreya in turn reassures him by saying she's more than happy to offer her help, especially since she strongly opposes the sacrificial system that puts people like him in danger. She then gently reminds him once more that the temple keeps a close watch on the loved ones, so it would be in his best interest to keep his identity a secret. Hikaru wholeheartedly agrees, expressing his own fear of becoming prey. They solidify this understanding by sealing their secret with a pinky promise. After spending some meaningful time together, the two decide it's time to part ways. Before leaving, Rifreya asks Hikaru if he's headed straight home. He shakes his head and tells her that he has another matter to attend to. They exchange friendly waves, promising to meet again soon. After parting ways, Hikaru heads to the guild alone, where he accepts a new request. With the task in hand, he makes his way to the entrance of the 3rd level. Despite the current party's success, Hikaru can't shake the feeling that it's not enough to claim the top spot in the viewership ranking. Driven by a desire to stand out, he chooses to tackle something far more daring and dangerous. The 3rd level, known as the Straying Mist Garden, offers the kind of high-risk environment where Hikaru believes he can pull off something thrilling enough to capture the audience's attention. Back on Earth, some viewers in the real world comment on how amazing Hikaru's new short sword is, wishing they could have their own weapon made in the other world as well. They also discuss how the Great Spirit of Fire almost devoured Hikaru, speculating that another loved one, possibly under house arrest, may have been offered to the spirit to appease it. Additionally, they find it cute that Rifreya wanted to invite Hikaru to her place when they parted ways, noting that Hikaru is starting to come across as a clumsy boyfriend to them. Some viewers criticize Hikaru for being reckless, as he suddenly decided to work separately from Rifreya and ventured onto the 3rd floor alone. Meanwhile, Hikaru's sisters, who are also watching, express their frustration, wondering why he teamed up with Rifreya in the first place. They promise to help him reach first place, insisting there's no need for him to take such dangerous risks. They are also puzzled as to why he would enter the labyrinth by himself. As part of his strategy to be in first place when the viewership count race comes to an end, Hikaru decides to try something really bold, something to intrigue the viewers and hopefully increase the current number. Hikaru decides to go down alone to the 3rd level, which is the Great Garden of Mist Confusion. As expected, the twin sisters are worried about Hikaru's strategy. Hikaru finally enters the 3rd level, and what he sees is a sight for his eyes to behold. Now, Hikaru has zero prior knowledge about the 3rd level, so he decides to make a commentary on what he can see. He admits that the garden is really beautiful, and isn't what one would normally expect to find in a labyrinth. The view is so good that Hikaru wonders if that is what the 3rd level truly looks like. In any case, he decides to begin his search. One of the first things Hikaru notices about the 3rd floor is that it's a lot brighter than the 2nd. With the darkness fog around him, he can only hope that he doesn't look out of place and easily get noticed by monsters on this floor. And speak of the devil, Hikaru sees a bright light from a distance, but it's obvious that there is something there. He decides to get closer, and then he realizes that it's a big, fat, strong-looking creature behind the light. The huge monster wields a club in its hands, so Hikaru can tell that it's not a peace-loving type of monster. Well, in the labyrinth, are there really any peace-loving monsters? Hikaru isn't familiar with the strength of the monsters on the current floor, so he decides to tread carefully to avoid danger. However, he knows that if the monster decides to attack with his club, then he has no choice but to fight back, even though he would probably have little chance of surviving the monster's attack. Hikaru thinks to himself that an investigation on the 3rd level might lead to the viewers having knowledge about it. Obviously, if one knows everything, they would probably not be as intrigued anymore. Knowing that as a possibility, Hikaru concludes that he has to give the audience just what they want: danger and mystery. His strategy to overcome the monster is no more than his usual fighting strategy. However, he notices that the monster isn't aggressive yet. Could that mean that the monster has yet to notice him? Hikaru decides to test his theory and tries going around the monster. It still doesn't attack, but it follows him and looks to be on guard. This makes Hikaru realize that despite his darkness fog, they can still see him. This clearly being due to the unusual brightness of the 3rd floor. To have any chance of defeating this huge monster, Hikaru has to get close to hit. On the other hand, getting close is a big risk, because it would make him susceptible to blows from the monster as well. Hikaru is aware that a single hit from this monster would mean game over, which in turn means that Nanami would be gone forever. Hikaru expands the range of his darkness fog to stop the monster from seeing him. As expected, the monster gets aggressive after losing its sight. Next up, Hikaru activates Shadow Bind, temporarily stopping the monster from moving at all. Being unable to see anything or move, the monster is at Hikaru's mercy at the moment. He doesn't waste any time in running at the creature with his short sword. Thankfully, the sword gets the job done, and Hikaru successfully defeats the huge monster. After winning the duel, Hikaru admits that he was scared to come up against such a monster. He credits Shadowbind for his victory, calling it an excellent move. Now, the effect time of Shadowbind is short, so it's a high-risk move if one misses the target. But if they succeed, the effects are highly rewarding, as shown against the monster. Hikaru is also happy with the effectiveness of his new short sword. So far, so good. It looks strong and easy to wield. The short sword is the black Amafugane weapon he ordered at the smithy. With all that done, Hikaru decides that it's time to continue his search on the 3rd floor. After walking for a while, still covered by his darkness fog, Hikaru can't make sense of his current position. He realizes that he may have just gotten lost, as he doesn't even have the slightest clue of his current location. Now, as the name implies, the Great Garden of Mist Confusion is very foggy. This makes it extremely difficult for one to get an accurate grasp of their position at any point on that floor. Hikaru decides to try looking for an exit. If he gets lucky, there may be one not too far away. However, luck isn't something that's been on his side since he got to this floor. Hikaru recalls that Refreya warned him about the 3rd floor in the past, telling him how easy it was to get lost in there. Good call, Refreya. However, his current situation isn't all that bad. The silver lining in his dark clouds is that this kind of situation would only make his viewers increase, as the audience clearly likes it when it looks like he's in a difficult situation, rather than when everything is looking blissful. Speaking of difficult situations, it's about to get a little more difficult for Hikaru here. Just a couple of steps ahead, he sees a few monsters who don't even pretend not to notice him. He does a quick head count. There are 3 big goblins and a monster which looks a bit like a bat, especially when you look at its wings. Hikaru decides to fight from a distance, and his strategy is to bug the system, pun intended. He uses his summoning night bug skill, bringing forth a good number of bugs to cripple the monsters on his behalf. For a while, his strategy seems brilliant, as he feels the bugs doing damage to the monsters. All he has to do is keep sending these bugs to the monsters, right? As if the 3rd floor is that easy. Hikaru is shocked when the bat-like monster debugs the system, again, pun intended, using Gravel Mist, which is a spirit art. Hikaru is surprised, because he didn't expect such a monster to be capable of using spirit arts. However, it has happened, and he must now improvise quickly. Hikaru thinks quickly, and concludes that if he defeats the bat-like monster, the others would simply be small fry, so he uses Shadowbind to hold the monsters down. First, he takes down the tough guy. From there on, as expected, the rest of them are simply no match for him. Hikaru succeeds in defeating the monsters. However, he realizes that he's getting tired, which isn't totally unexpected when you consider the consecutive battles he's fought. He realizes that for a normal person, getting lost in the labyrinth would simply be suicide, and it wouldn't be the strangest occurrence for the lost one to be killed even as little as 30 minutes later. However, Hikaru perceives his strategy to be worth it, and good evidence of that is his increasing viewer numbers, a number which has rapidly grown to over 400 million. However, that number isn't nearly enough if he truly wishes to intend to win the race and bring Nanami back to life. And to Hikaru, putting his life on the line is worth the risk, as long as it means it would help him bring her back to life. Hikaru continues his journey until he hears a voice warning him to watch out, as it's dangerous ahead. He wonders where the voice is coming from, but what really matters is that the voice alerts him just in time to block a blow from a monster he just noticed. Even though he managed to block the blow from the monster, Hikaru still suffers considerable damage to his body. He looks up to see what kind of monster was powerful enough to deliver that kind of a blow. The monster turns out to be a tree? What kind of weird dungeon is this? A tree monster is probably the last thing Hikaru expected to see in this dungeon, and from the looks of it, this monster might be stronger than the ones he has faced thus far. Even when he tries to extend his darkness fog, the tree monster still senses him and attempts another blow. In his commentary, Hikaru admits to the viewers that he may have just broken his left arm while trying to defend himself, as he barely had any armor on his body. The greater the looming danger, the better it is for viewers. Rather than trying to run, Hikaru holds his short sword in his right hand and rises to confront the tree monster, who stays rooted to a spot. Before running at the monster, Hikaru activates Shade Shift. Shade Shift is a dark art that provides an alter ego which has been upgraded to be usable. With this move, Hikaru thinks it's enough to distract the monster for a while and disperse his attacks. Hikaru's clone gets hit earlier than expected, but it's enough to get the job done, allowing Hikaru to go around the tree and get to what he believes is a blind spot. Next, as usual, he activates Shadow Bind. Now, Hikaru admits that he doesn't know the weak spot of tree monsters, but his intention at the moment is just to split the monster in two. If that doesn't defeat it, I don't know what will. Shadowbind holds down the tree monster long enough for Hikaru to run at it and land his blow. However, his blow makes little to no difference, which might be a result of his weakened hands. As if the bad news wasn't enough, the effect time for Shadowbind comes to an end, and the chains begin to unravel, allowing the monster to send Hikaru back again. At this moment, he knows he's in a tight spot, and must think of something to avoid imminent death. Hikaru reaches into his shadow bag and brings out an intermediate potion. The effects of the potion are enough to heal his left arm. Now Hikaru is ready for round 2, determined to finish off the monster once and for all. The tree monster decides to reveal its trump card, shouting and making its voice heard all over the 3rd floor. A little while later, 2 monsters show up, and they're identical to the huge monster Hikaru previously fought at the start of the 3rd floor. They also have clubs, and these ones look aggressive from the start. Imagine your trump card being the ability to call for backup. What a wuss. In any case, Hikaru doesn't need anyone to tell him that he's now the one at a big disadvantage. He wonders whether it's time to call it quits. Activating Darkness Fog and attempting to escape would probably be the go-to move for any regular person. However, Hikaru isn't prepared to throw away all of his hard work right now. Stepping into the 3rd floor, Hikaru was aware of the risk of danger and death, but he came anyway, fully prepared to die alone. Hikaru decides not to run, but to fight, winning the viewership count race or dying trying. This is all to bring Nanami back. Hikaru unleashes hell on the monsters, initially activating Darkness Fog like he did with the first one. Then he immediately uses Shadowbind to hold them down and land fatal blows. For the tree monster, Hikaru resolves not to slow down. No matter how tough it may seem, it's just a tree, and will surely be able to be cut down. First, he uses the Summoning Night Bug skill, constantly using the bugs to scrape the tree away, not even giving it a chance to start a counterattack. Hikaru also uses a skill, Phantom Warrior, for the first time. Now, Phantom Warrior is the summoning technique of the Dark Warrior's Shadow, and a level up from Shadow Runner. As an illusion, this technique has no fighting power, but it should be able to draw the attention of tree monsters with the sound it makes. To top it off, Hikaru gives his attack another dimension with Shade Shift. Activating these skills at once is taking a painful toll on his body, but Hikaru knows that it's worth it. He successfully gets behind the tree monster, to the place he now knows as the monster's blind spot. He activates Shadowbind and immediately runs toward the monster with his short sword. Lightning doesn't strike the same place twice, but Hikaru makes sure to strike the same spot already weakened by the bugs and his earlier blow. This time, he strikes with all his might, using Nanami as a motivation to finish off the tree monster. In the end, Hikaru wins the fight, albeit not without some level of pain. However, he's happy to have gotten valuable fighting experience. He feels a little more competent with the use of Dark Spirit Arts now. Hikaru decides to quit while he's ahead, announcing that he intends to find the exit now. Hikaru's skills are as impressive to the viewers as his aura. They wonder how he finished such a tough battle and still maintained a calm personality. Thankfully, Hikaru finds the exit. He announces that it's time to end the transmission of the search for one person. For today, that is. The next day, as he says, is for exploring with the party. Hikaru's viewership spikes again, this time getting close to 500 million. This places him at 14th in the race, with just 12 days to go until the end. The twins couldn't be more relieved to see Hikaru made it out of the 3rd level alive. While he was about entering the floor, they shouted their lungs out, warning him not to go there alone, as if he could hear them. It's very difficult watching someone you love in danger and being unable to do anything about it. The least they can do for now is hope for him not to die. Thankfully, so far, so good. Meanwhile, Hikaru feels a lot better now and is back with Refreya. Before anything, they go to check the monster information board. Refreya reveals that the reason for checking the board is because the 3rd level is easy to get lost in, so they need all the information they can get. On the board, Hikaru sees the tree monster he previously fought. That's when he learns that tree monsters are called treants. If only he previously came to this board, huh? Hikaru brags a little to Refreya. He tells her that treants' weakness is simply spirit arts, as weapon attacks seem like they'd be ineffective against them. However, Refreya reveals that with her it's a different case. Her sword can easily cut them down. They are just trees after all. Hikaru wonders how she can comfortably say this when he struggled against the monster. Refreya says that monsters with weapons can strike at you, but treants are just trees, so it's as simple as cutting them down. Hikaru wonders if this is true, or if this only applies when it comes to Refreya. Meanwhile, Hikaru comes across another rather familiar monster on the board. It's the big monster that wields a club, and he realizes that the monster is called a troll. He also sees the monsters he fought before coming across the tree monsters. According to the board, those monsters are ghouls, and ghouls have paralyzing poison. Hikaru realizes that he was lucky to come out of the 3rd level alive the previous day, as a single hit from the ghouls would have killed him. Hikaru's mind drifts to the viewers and what they would probably like to see. Since they're also watching the distribution of the highest rating race participants, Hikaru knows that to earn more ratings, they should probably do a more exciting broadcast. A good idea could be to put up a tougher fight. Refreya halts Hikaru's train of thought, telling him that Grapeful is already waiting for them. They go to meet her together, but Hikaru's mind is totally on the race that ends in just 12 days. Even though the number of viewers is steadily increasing, they still need a lot more if they are to win the viewership race. Grapeful reveals that she's been waiting a while for them. Once they enter the labyrinth as expected, they encounter some monsters, which Refreya takes care of while she's supported by Hikaru. Hikaru uses his Shadow Bind to hold the monster in place, giving Refreya the opportunity to use her light magic to finish off the monster. Refreya is particularly excited, because she used to think her light magic was a boring technique. Before meeting Hikaru, she had never thought of using the spirit art in real battle situations. Refreya is grateful to Hikaru, as she claims that it feels like she just used a spell for the very first time. Hikaru looks at Refreya's cute face and simply thinks the viewers would love it. Their audience will surely increase the more gorgeous she is. He accepts her thanks, and then he announces the plan for them to visit the 3rd level the next day, a plan to which they all agree. The next day, as he said, Hikaru's party explores the 3rd level. At this point, Hikaru knows that when exploring in a party, one can gather viewers with a solid fight. However, if one is exploring alone, the surest way to gather viewers would be to fight recklessly. Hikaru understands that he's taking a big risk here, because his death would bring an end to the bid to bring Nanami back to life. However, it seems to be a high-risk, high-reward system. His method has surely been working so far. It's now 5 days to the end of the race, and his viewership count stands just a little short of 750 million. This ranks him at 4th place in the standings, a massive improvement from his previous 14th place. With just 5 days remaining and 3 more ranks to go, Hikaru deeply wonders what he can do to trigger the first place he desires. Meanwhile, Refreya asks whether he would like to go out with her. It's an out-of-context question when you realize she just intends to exchange spirit stones. She says that she previously reminded him of her intention to stop by the guild on their way home. Hikaru admits that he forgot and apologizes, while Refreya reveals that he's felt a little more distant since the day began. Meanwhile, on their way, something significant happens. They encounter a couple of badly wounded adventurers being carried to the guild to receive treatment. The damage looks too brutal to be done by just any monster, so it's only a half surprise when they learn that the Demon Lord was responsible for it. According to the wounded, the Demon Lord shockingly appeared on the 5th level. They tell their tales about the Demon Lord, and one thing is clear: This monster must be subjugated as quickly as possible. With such a pure chaos spirit lurking around, it's clear that if it's not subjugated, no one else will be able to enter the labyrinth. Even though he was seen on the 5th floor, Refreya explains that the Demon Lord moves through the floors and gets stronger as it goes up the stairs. This means that exploring the 2nd and 3rd floors isn't even safe. Hikaru immediately knows that he must take advantage of this opportunity, however dangerous it is. This could be what spikes their viewership from 4th to 1st place. Hikaru asks Refreya the typical length of time it usually takes to defeat a Demon Lord. She reveals that the subjugation team must be formed first, and it requires a large number of people. In the end, she estimates it to be 3 or 4 days. Hikaru asks Refreya whether joining the subjugation team is a possibility for him, but she says that only adventurers in the Sylvestra class are allowed to join the team. Hikaru doesn't argue this, which comes as a surprise to Refreya, as she thought he would be more eager to join the team. Unknown to her, Hikaru has his own plans. Whether it's by joining the subjugation team or not, Hikaru knows that he'll somehow end up in that labyrinth. This is surely his chance, and he's willing to put his life on the line for Nanami's sake. On the 10th day of the viewership count contest, Hikaru heads to the labyrinth. Upon arriving, he notices a large group of adventurers standing outside, blocked by guards from entering. The guards have set up several barriers at the entrance, announcing that the labyrinth is currently closed, and no one is allowed inside. A notice board at the entrance further explains why it has been restricted. Hikaru observes the situation and deduces that the labyrinth is empty, which he sees as an advantage, since this means he can search for the Demon Lord without interference. With only 5 days remaining in the race, he knows there is no time to hesitate. Just as he prepares to sneak into the labyrinth, a blinding light from behind dispels his darkness fog. A female voice calls out, saying she knew he would come. He immediately recognizes the voice and, turning around, is shocked to see Refreya standing there. Nervously, he asks if she really expected him to come alone and attempt to enter the labyrinth. Refreya explains that she saw him in the city and decided to follow him. She then questions why he would venture into the labyrinth alone, and what he planned to do if he encountered the Demon Lord. Hikaru lies to Refreya, claiming that he was only thinking about playing on the 2nd level of the labyrinth. However, despite the possibility that Hikaru might be telling the truth, since the 2nd floor should still be safe, Refreya sees through his lie. She calls him out, telling him he's a terrible liar. Grabbing his hands, she pulls him along, insisting that he come with her. Even after they leave the labyrinth and return to the city, Refreya continues to hold on to Hikaru, leading him around. He eventually tells her it's okay to let go as they're no longer in the labyrinth, but she replies she won't let him go for the rest of the day. Playfully, Hikaru jokes that it could be a problem if she needs to go to the bathroom, to which she retorts sarcastically that if that happens, they'll just go together. After being dragged around for a while without knowing their destination, Hikaru finally asks where she's taking him. Refreya pauses, turns to face him, and suddenly asks if he'll go on a date with her. Hikaru is taken aback by the unexpected question, but doesn't refuse. Their first stop is an armor shop, and as Refreya browses the samples trying to decide what to buy, Hikaru seizes the moment to ask her how she knew he planned to enter the labyrinth alone. She tells him it's quite obvious, as she's been observing him for a while, and noticed his strange behavior recently, so she became concerned, and she did some research at the guild and discovered records of him entering the labyrinth alone. She saw that he seemed like he was being chased the whole time, which made her feel like he might disappear if she didn't intervene. This filled her with fear. Hikaru realizes that what Refreya is trying to convey is that she's been watching over him because she deeply cares for him. Smiling slightly, Hikaru changes the subject, asking her to choose an armor for him. She picks one, assuring him it will protect him. After he puts it on, she happily remarks that their outfits match now. With excitement and satisfaction evident on her face, she asks if they can visit the next store, as she plans to go on a shopping spree. He agrees, playfully calling her princess, and they both laugh at the remark. Hikaru realizes he has been thinking about the race for a long time, and decides to allow himself to enjoy the rest of the day with Refreya. After visiting several other shops, they finally head to a boutique. Refreya picks out a beautiful dress and tries it on. She asks Hikaru what he thinks of the outfit, and whether it looks good on her. Hikaru blushes for a moment, before telling her the dress looks cute on her, and that the dark blue color complements her fair skin. This reminds Hikaru of something his sisters used to teach him back in the real world. Whenever a girl changes her appearance, it's important to notice and compliment her. As he watches Refreya continue her shopping spree, He thinks about how she's really showing her feminine side. Suddenly, Rifreya asks Hikaru if he has ever visited the Great Wind Spirits District. He admits he hasn't and asks what it's like. She describes it as a peaceful field, with the windmills being the main attraction. Hikaru, confused at the mention of windmills, asks if she's referring to the kind he knows. Finding it hard to believe they could resemble the ones from his world, he tells her he hasn't seen them. With a smile, Rifreya takes his hand and suggests they go see them for themselves. As they walk through the fields, Rifreya leads him to one of the windmills. Hikaru is left speechless the moment he realizes it looks exactly like the ones from his world. Rifreya smiles. It's truly beautiful. Emotion wells up in him as he recalls how often he has dreamt of his world since arriving in this new one, only to wake up alone in a dark room. Opening up to Rifreya, he admits it's been a long time since he's had a moment to appreciate the sunlight. Rifreya responds warmly, saying she's glad she convinced him to come. She adds that while she doesn't know what his goal is, she hopes he'll keep smiling. Hikaru recalls how he lost control the moment he saw the message accusing him of being responsible for his best friend's murder. Despite the success of his explorations and having more than enough money, none of it seemed to matter to him at the time. But now things are going so well that he finds himself able to laugh with Rifreya. As the two sit together enjoying the view, Hikaru expresses his gratitude to Rifreya, acknowledging how much she has taught him. Rifreya beams with joy at his appreciation, and admits she had been worried he might hate her for forcibly dragging him out. However, Hikaru reassures her no one could dislike her. Playfully, she asks if that means he likes her, to which he responds with a coy, no comment. She laughs, saying she enjoys his answer. As Hikaru watches her smile, he reflects that without her bright spirit, he might have given up on this world. He quietly mutters that she always finds him, but when she asks what he said, he brushes it off, saying it's nothing. After a brief pause, Rifreya confesses that starting tomorrow, she'll be joining the Demon Lord subjugation. She advises him not to push himself too hard. Hikaru apologizes to her, admitting he can't make that promise. He acknowledges that even though he knows it's dangerous, he still needs to go. Hikaru realizes there's no denying his feelings, because he's willing to risk his life for his best friend Nanami. Rifreya reminds him that he had promised to explain everything once it was all over. She then asks if fighting the Demon Lord is truly that important to him. He responds that if he doesn't do it, he will probably regret it for the rest of his life. Hikaru is surprised when Rifreya hands him a piece of paper. He asks what it is, and she explains that it's a certificate granting him the role of porter in the Demon King's subjugation squad. With it, he can join the team as her attendant. His face lights up with hope as he expresses his excitement over the opportunity she's given him. Rifreya tells him that she's doing this because it wouldn't be safe for him to return to the labyrinth alone. They spend the rest of the day together until night falls. As they say their goodbyes, Hikaru closes his eyes to avoid seeing the anxiety on Rifreya's face. He feels guilty, because even though she doesn't understand the situation fully, she's still willing to help him. The weight of his guilt presses on him, as heavy as a bell. In the real world, viewership of the Otherworld program continues to rise, and Hikaru's fanbase steadily grows, engaging in real-time discussions about his every move. Even Cecilia, who initially disliked the idea of Rifreya getting close to Hikaru, experiences a change of heart. She becomes grateful to Rifreya for bringing a smile to her brother's face, something he hadn't shown since arriving in the demon world. Together, they decide to keep supporting his quest for first place, all for Nanami's sake. Back in the other world, Rifreya and Hikaru gather in front of the labyrinth alongside the other members of the Demon Lord's subjugation squad. Hikaru comments on the size of the crowd, to which Rifreya explains that since it's only the first day of the mission, the turnout is still small. She adds that by the second day, even more people will join. Realizing that they won't be able to complete the mission in just one day, Hikaru decides to focus on broadcasting the atmosphere of the Demon Lord's defeat for now. In order to boost viewership, Hikaru asks Rifreya if someone will take command of the squad, and suggests that they may end up splitting into smaller groups as they descend through the floors. However, they all intend to face the Demon Lord in the order they encounter it. Just then, a man, whom Hikaru assumes to be the squad leader, announces that they will all head to the third floor. He instructs that Sylvestra-class adventurers and above will take the front lines, while porters will stay in the rear. Hikaru and Rifreya move to their respective positions. Just as Hikaru begins to feel disheartened about being assigned to the rear, he feels a pat on his back. Turning around, he sees Alexander Fox, who greets him warmly and says, "It's been a while." Hikaru recalls Alex as the friendly Canadian adventurer who, like him, came from the real world. Alex is relieved that Hikaru remembers him, as he hadn't seen him since their last encounter at the bathhouse. Hikaru asks if Alex is also a porter, and Alex confirms, adding that he recently advanced to the Dryad class, a rank higher than Hikaru's. He also mentions that no one from the real world has managed to defeat the Demon Lord yet. Suddenly, Alex remembers that he has a message for Hikaru, one sent to him from the real world during their last meeting. As Alex scrolls through his inbox searching for the message, Hikaru stops him, not wanting to see any bad news or hurtful comments from viewers. Hikaru explains that he doesn't want to dwell on what happened back there. Alex asks if he's sure about not wanting to hear the message, reminding him that it's from a family member who clearly wanted to reach out. At the mention of his family, Hikaru hesitates for a moment, but ultimately decides that even if the message is from his parents or his sisters, he doesn't have the courage or right to face it right now. Seeing Hikaru's troubled expression, Alex realizes it's probably not the best time to push the matter. He promises not to bring up the message again, saying that the priority now is to focus on the Demon Lord. Alex also shares that he understands how Hikaru feels, admitting that whenever he thinks about his life in the new world, he always feels a deep loneliness. Just then, the squad leader announces that there's a chance the Demon Lord has already reached the 3rd level, and instructs everyone to split into 3 groups to meet with their teams. Alex talks about how the Demon Lord grows stronger as it ascends through the floors, and warns that if it has reached the 3rd floor, defeating it might be impossible. He asks Hikaru if there's anything he plans to do, but Hikaru simply replies that he will fight, no matter which floor the Demon Lord reaches. Impressed by Hikaru's bravery, Alex praises him, and resolves to follow his lead. Hikaru checks his real-time viewer stats and is surprised to discover that his audience has surpassed 900,000. He is currently ranked 1st in terms of instant viewer gains, but holds 3rd place in the overall rankings. Hikaru believes that if he can defeat the Demon Lord, he'll secure 1st place in the overall standings. Before leaving to meet up with his friends, Alex tells Hikaru to try not to die, and Hikaru jokingly responds with the same. After Alex leaves, Hikaru hears someone call out to him from behind. When he turns around, he sees members of Rifreya's squad approaching. The squad consists of an elf, a beast folk who is friends with Grapeful, and a human named Garnet, the squad captain. All the squad members are female. They engage in small talk about Hikaru and Rifreya's relationship before Garnet suggests they get started. The squad proceeds to defeat a considerable number of monsters, and after finishing, they decide to leave the rest of the work to the next squad and head home. However, Hikaru believes that to maintain his viewership ratings, he needs to keep going without a break. He tells Rifreya that he's staying behind. Knowing that Hikaru won't leave, even if she tries to convince him, Rifreya decides to stay as well. She then negotiates with the survey squad members to join their group. Hikaru silently hopes that the Demon Lord appears soon, since he doesn't have much time left. It turns out that Alex is also a member of the survey squad, and both he and Hikaru are surprised to see that neither of them have left the labyrinth yet. Alex explains that he didn't want to leave because he didn't want to miss the subjugation of the Demon Lord, an event he found too interesting to pass up. Rifreya sees Hikaru talking to Alex and, feeling jealous again, asks Hikaru if he's gotten to know other adventurers. Alex and his squad are stunned to see someone as beautiful as Rifreya by Hikaru's side, and they wonder if she's his girlfriend. Rifreya introduces herself and asks them to treat her well. The 3 men, even more smitten after hearing her speak, introduce themselves one by one. First Alex, then Crabble, and finally Jordan. They invite her to play cards with them, explaining that it helps them stay awake during night watch. However, Rifreya politely declines, saying she just wants to be alone with Hikaru. Her words leaving the 3 men feeling dejected. She pulls Hikaru away to another spot, and they sit on the stairs leading to the 4th floor. Once they're alone, Hikaru expresses his disappointment with how she treated Alex and his friends, telling her they were hurt by her words. She replies that they were giving her strange looks, but Hikaru insists they didn't deserve such treatment, since they weren't bad guys. Rifreya then adds that she wasn't lying when she said she wanted to be alone with him. Hikaru finally calms down and sits on the stairs with her. The cold, gentle wind blows against them, causing them to shiver. Hikaru tells Rifreya that if she's feeling sleepy, she can go ahead and rest while he stays up, but she replies that she isn't tired yet. Changing the subject, Rifreya mentions that she doubts anyone would notice if the Demon Lord had already reached the 3rd level. However, Hikaru confidently claims the Demon Lord hasn't reached the 3rd level yet, though he adds that the lower levels feel more dangerous. Curious, Rifreya asks how Hikaru knows this, and whether he can sense the Demon Lord's presence. Hikaru explains that the spirit's power feels different to him, likely because he's a loved one. Rifreya smiles, and remarks that this means he will definitely know if the Demon Lord starts approaching the stairs. Hikaru admits that while his ability to sense spirits isn't perfect, with strong enough spirit energy, he should be able to tell. Refreya reassures him, saying she'll rely on his instincts. Noticing that Refreya is getting colder, Hikaru offers her his small coat, saying it's better than nothing. She hesitates, asking if he's cold too, to which he replies that he's the warmer one. However, his body betrays him, as Refreya can clearly see him shivering. She tells him she knows he's lying. Refreya moves closer to him and shares the coat, saying it will help keep them both warm. He agrees but points out they're sitting very close. She reminisces about a previous party where she had spent the night on the stairs, admitting she never thought she'd end up sitting with a boy and spending the night like this. Hikaru confesses it's the same for him, as he hadn't imagined getting close to anyone in the city, and becoming friends with her was an unexpected twist. She tells him not to say that again. As Hikaru gazes at her in silence, he decides that after the battle, they won't venture into the labyrinth together anymore. She'll become a temple knight in the local area while he will remain in the labyrinth forever. Deep down, he wishes he could tell her he wanted to be with her always. Suddenly, Refreya speaks up, confessing that she likes him, and that just being with him fills her with a sense that nothing else matters. Hikaru believes that the more he cares about Refreya, the more he feels their relationship won't work out. However, Refreya finally expresses her desire to be with him forever, saying that since they've met, they've ventured into the labyrinth together and rented a room, and she feels that they will continue to share more experiences. Despite wanting the same deep down, Hikaru sadly tells her that he can't be with her forever. He wishes they could continue exploring the labyrinth together with Grapeful, but his circumstances prevent it. With sadness in her eyes, Refreya asks if Hikaru hates her. He responds that he would be a coward if he answered that. Wanting to stop deceiving her, Hikaru decides to reveal the truth about not being from their world. He explains that he arrived from a different world 40 days earlier. Refreya struggles to believe him, thinking it's a joke, but Hikaru insists, explaining that because he's an otherworlder, he's constantly being watched by his own world. That's why he can't be with her, since he feels like he's putting on a show with everything he does. Refreya looks around and assures him that no one is watching them. He then explains there's an invisible camera observing them. To prove his point, he orders a blanket from his system's store, exchanging 3 crystals for it. The blanket suddenly materializes out of thin air, shocking Refreya. Hikaru wraps her in the blanket, and she is fascinated by the strange, warm material, something she has never encountered in her world before. Despite now believing him, she insists that it still doesn't explain why he can't be with her, as she doesn't care about his origins at all. Hikaru responds that he doesn't want people from his world to see what she looks like beneath her clothes. Refreya flushes with embarrassment, recalling how she nearly undressed in front of him a few nights ago in an attempt to seduce him. Hikaru apologizes for the situation, but she reassures him it was her choice. Blushing, she adds that his desire to keep her unseen suggests he's becoming possessive of her. Hikaru begins to explain everything about his past world, including how he was accused of murdering his best friend, and how he needs high viewership ratings to bring her back to life. He also admits that he used her story to gain those ratings. Refreya then asks if his best friend is like a lover to him, but he clarifies that their relationship wasn't romantic, because they were more like family, having grown up together. He tells Refreya that he has planned to apologize to his friend once everything is over, and that he is willing to do anything to bring Nanami back. Refreya smiles, and says she doesn't mind the viewers watching, but Hikaru expresses that he doesn't want to drag her into his situation. He also mentions that he hopes she fulfills her dream of becoming a temple knight, while he continues to wander the labyrinth. When Refreya asks if he intends to die, Hikaru responds that he'll simply return to being invisible, just like he was before. After a brief moment of reflective silence, Hikaru is suddenly alerted as he begins sensing the approaching spirit energy of the Demon Lord. The group decides to head back up, since it will lead to them winning the count race. Hikaru informs Alex that the Demon Lord is on the floor they're headed for, and they will most likely meet him there. Alex, hearing that the Demon Lord might be their next foe, trembles in his boots, and in panic, he tries to call another party in for assistance. Unfortunately, he drops the horn used to call allies, and this is when the real panic begins. While the party members scold Alex for being a klutz at this crucial time, they wonder if they should head back down and fetch the horn. Soon enough, they come to the realistic conclusion that they would not make it in time if they did. Reason being is that there is a terrible pressure emanating from downstairs. Confused on what exactly to do, Alex turns to Hikaru for direction, and Hikaru suggests that Alex and the others go back down to the stairs of the second floor and call for backup. Mid-instruction, Hikaru is interrupted by a whisper from Refreya. She adds that Hikaru is a loved one, so he might be able to attract the Demon Lord, so it would be better to lure the Demon Lord to the stairs of the second floor rather than segregating the group and forcing them to face it there. Agreeing with Refreya's outlook, he dishes out her suggestion, asking the others to take care of any demons that appear on the way, while assuring them that he and Refreya would take on the Demon Lord. As they head on according to the plan, the pressure they all felt grew stronger, and they started hearing ominous voices urging them to run away. Despite the danger, Hikaru is determined to push forward, as he believes that in order to get first place in the ratings race and achieve his goal, he'll definitely have to see the Demon Lord with his own eyes, so the plan is to lure it as far as the stairs of the second floor. While working on that, he checks in on Alex, asking if Alex is fine with the rush to the second floor. Alex in turn assures him that his end is all covered. Hikaru, in need of points to cast counter and attack spells needed to face the Demon Lord, asks Alex if he has any left. Sadly, Alex has used up all the points he had. For Hikaru, his total points left are 15 in number, and it is meant for one crystal. A crystal that, if it came down to it, could at least be traded for a barrier stone. Then the dreadful appears. The air gets tense, and darkness fills the space. The Demon Lord reveals itself, causing shock and fear to grip everyone who witnessed. Announcing that the Demon Lord is there, Hikaru asks everyone to take to their feet, setting the plan in motion because if they don't meet the other parties as soon as possible, things will definitely get dangerous. As they run, Hikaru stops to get a better glimpse of the monstrosity behind them, an enormous, dragon-faced wolf with a scaly, snake-like tail. Almost immediately, Hikaru casts Darkness Fog to blind the monster, but the Demon Lord's reaction is a closed eye. As Hikaru realizes that the monster is unfazed by its inability to see, he gets even more surprised when the Demon Lord dispels the spell in a short period of time. For the first time, Hikaru learns that a Demon Lord can use spirit arts as well. Hikaru's next step is to slow the Demon Lord down while he has its attention using Phantom Bind and Shadow Warrior. Next, he summons Night Bugs to attack the Demon Lord, but to no avail. The attacks weren't working for him on the Demon Lord, and they could still be easily dispelled. Moreover, Shadow Bind is already at its limit. Refreya notices something strange, something more ominous going on with the monster in front of them. It seems like the Demon Lord is improving form and evolving as soon as they notice the increase in spiritual energy and, to their surprise, wings. The Demon Lord grew wings, so the already feared Demon Lord could now take to the sky and attack them from above. With not much of a choice left, they try to head down the stairs away from this evil, but even the monsters of the third floor are attacking them vigorously too. Fully aware of how much danger they're in, thanks to this new development, they struggle to leave the area because if they get damaged from above without other parties present to assist, the Demon Lord now mid-air sends a fiery blast at Hikaru and the party. One Hikaru fully knows he could not possibly avoid. Luckily, he's protected by a mage in the party who casts a water screen, a water spirit art, causing the flames to go out. Hikaru thanks the party member, and they focus on backing Hikaru up in the fight for now. Next, the Demon Lord begins charging towards the group, and the pair, Refreya and Hikaru, had to think on their feet as a duo. So Hikaru asks Refreya to disengage the Demon Lord with her skill, Light. Successfully, she manages to hold the monster down for some time. With the feared subdued, Hikaru couldn't think of a better time to get his move on, so they all charge towards the Demon Lord now. Although a shocking turn of the tides occurs as they're all disrupted in movement and strength by the Demon Lord's dominating power, Fear. Due to the spell cast by the Demon Lord, they all froze at their various spots, unable to muster any form of strength or force to follow through with their plan. Soon, the force of the spell brought all the party members close to their knees, while some tried to resist, wondering what was happening. Just like any other skill or spell, the Demon Lord's Fear is a spirit art, one of the spirit arts of chaos, resulting in their strength being cut off and short-termed. Stuck to the ground, they hurl insults at themselves individually, asking and begging for their bodies to move, even if it's a muscle. Eventually, thanks to the Darkness Fog and Shadow Bind holding the Demon Lord down, the effects of fear begin to weaken, as Hikaru starts to feel strength returning to his legs. He calls out to Alex to find out his current state, and when they confirm that everyone can at least take steps, they continue with the plan, as Hikaru and Refreya ready to hold the Demon Lord off, while the others call for help from other parties. For Alex, this now seems far-fetched, because to him, both of them facing the Demon Lord with wings now alone is nothing short of suicide. But Hikaru uses reality to make him see reason, as if they all stay put and put their best in facing the Demon Lord, they will all be wiped out in one fell swoop. Therefore, the better option is to split up. While one group faces danger, the other calls for possible help and backup. The pair, Refreya and Hikaru, stand and face what might be their biggest nightmare. For now, it is hard to deal damage on the Demon Lord, but the good news is at the barest minimum, the spirit arts work on it. Hikaru instructs Refreya to aim for the moment when the Demon Lord comes towards him to dispel his spirit arts. That's the moment to strike. All of a sudden, the Demon Lord changes the course of his direction and heads towards Refreya, causing Hikaru to wonder if it did so in response to Refreya's voice, although most of Refreya's attack, if timed right and coupled with his, could bring the beast down sooner and safer than expected. The moment they were waiting for arrived, as the Demon Lord now charges to Hikaru in the bid to dispel his magic. Refreya doesn't delay in the slightest, as she jumps and charges at the beast, hammering it down with the light. Even though it was a good attack with accuracy and expert timing, Refreya couldn't help but experience the hardness of the Demon Lord's scales and back. Hikaru keeps it down using Shadow Bind, and Refreya doesn't stop trying to stab the Demon Lord and keeps it going. While watching all of this, Hikaru comes to terms with the fact that the way or method will eventually stop working in their battle against the Demon Lord. Since Refreya is buying time for the both of them, he sees this as a perfect time to make an essential trade for a barrier stone. Using his points, he gets a barrier stone, and then notices something different: his viewer count. Apparently, he was placed at first place in the viewer count race and the momentary viewer count, with the figure reaching over 1 billion people. This discovery left Hikaru stunned, too stunned to move, as euphoria enveloped him, as he seemed closer to his goal of rescuing Nanami. Meanwhile, for his sake, Refreya is beginning to go overboard with her attack on the Demon Lord. Even when he warns her to get away from the monster because Shadowbind won't hold for much longer, she is still adamant, and believes she can land a finishing blow, disregarding their reality, and hoping she could do this one thing to make Hikaru happy. Despite advising her that she is charging in on the monster too fast, and doing that will only wear her down in the long run, Refreya still holds on to her desire to kill this monster, and gain the joy that would come from assisting Hikaru in accomplishing his goal. Right now, the only person being logical was Hikaru, as he could see that there was no way she could land a fatal or critical hit on the Demon Lord with the kind of sword she is wielding. Also, Darkness Fog would have blinded the monster from seeing her, but it's useless to try, since she's already so close to the monster. Seeing that no matter how strong Refreya is, she couldn't possibly pull this off, he resolves himself to do the only option on the table, distracting the Demon Lord, even if it is just a little. Using Phantom Warrior to distract the Demon Lord, he tries to get to Refreya and convince her to retreat and dial down before something terrible happens. He assures her that all they need to do right now is buy time, nothing dangerous. It turns out that Refreya didn't buy into that idea, pun intended. She is determined to end the Demon Lord, majorly because of one reason, a reason she didn't get to say, as the Demon Lord regains full strength and in one hit hurls her across the space into a wall. In no time, Refreya goes crashing into the wall, leaving a worried Hikaru and an angry Demon Lord. Without much thought, Hikaru hurriedly casts Darkness Fog and Shadowbind on the Demon Lord, and runs to check on Refreya, as he anxiously yelled out her name. Badgering her with questions and trying to confirm her state, he follows the questioning with scolding, as he wondered why she was acting so recklessly. Refreya assures him that it's just a scratch, but that isn't the case. She also adds that it felt good while facing the Demon Lord, so she had to keep attacking. Next, she intends to stand up and continue attacking once the Demon Lord tries to dispel the spirit arts. Things get gory from here, as they both discover that she is gravely injured, with both limbs suffering severe cuts. The blood loss progressively increases, and she becomes lightheaded, as everywhere begins to blur out and darken. As for Hikaru, for the initial moments, he is steeped in confusion, since moments ago she assured him she was fine. Nevertheless, it didn't take long for him to realize that he was about to lose a loved one again, as he sees a reflection of Nanami and her passing. Still clueless or probably in denial, Refreya refuses to believe the situation she is in, and wonders why everywhere is strangely dark. She playfully suggests that she fell down, and laughs her predicament off. Hikaru spaces out, as he wonders if her current state and proximity to death is all his fault. His vision is so set at the momentary viewer count and getting to first place, the mission to win the race and save Nanami by bringing her back to life. He never really considered that the goal would be reason enough for Refreya to push herself so far to contribute to him achieving it. The scary and only thought in his head roamed in chaos as he wondered if tragedy is repeating itself. He wonders if the need and desire to bring one back to life is about to cost the life of another dear to him. At the end of it all, he'll be sacrificing one life to save another, trading lives of two loved ones, and this leaves Hikaru to make a tough decision. Who is it going to be? With the conviction that her fatal state is all his fault, he watches Refreya bleed out, desperately thinking of a solution. To solve their pending and present problem of the Demon Lord, at least temporarily, Hikaru casts a barrier stone to hide them from the Demon Lord's radar. With everything zoning and dimming out, Refreya calls out to Hikaru, asking if he is there. She asks why her legs hurt, as she hasn't wrapped her head around the reason and her current state. As she asks why everywhere is suddenly so dark and she can't see anything, Hikaru assures her he'll soon lighten their surrounding up. When he does, she is relieved to see his face. Meanwhile, all Hikaru could see when he looks at her is a dying Nanami. Either way, he knew he had to stop the bleeding, so he gets right into it with the different potions available and a rope to tie the area up. As he reassures her that everything is going to turn out fine, the more the aid progresses, the more reality hits. The rope isn't going to control the bleeding, and she might likely die. He tries to fight the odds and manage, hoping and praying that it works out, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The wound is way too deep for the shabby first aid to help save her life. Wondering what he could do next, he couldn't help but ask her why she would do something so reckless with her life, knowing fully well that if they had only bought some time like they planned, they would not be in this trouble. As he asks, he wonders if she can hold out until someone comes to help them, but it doesn't take much time for him to come to terms with the truth that it's not feasible as well. Here, Refreya now discloses what drove her to do something so reckless. He once told her that he was trying to bring a childhood friend back to life, and to stand out by being number one. Hikaru adds immediately that his goal will be all for nothing if she dies, so it doesn't mean she has to force herself. She continues, explaining that she did it because if he becomes a number one, and it was thanks to her that he was able to achieve that, she believed that he would stay by her side. She believed that him coming first would make him happy, subtly adding that she's stupid. Feeling guilty and sad, Hikaru claims to be the stupid one, as he put his situation first, all in the bid to save Nanami without even considering the effects and strain it was putting on Refreya. Refreya continues, saying that she thought if she could stay with Hikaru, she didn't need anything else, and if he could defeat the Demon Lord and become the first, she hoped that he would fall in love with her quickly and be with her forever. With the death near, she assures him that she believes he should be the first, and would give anything to make that happen. Hearing this then made Hikaru realize that he was being foolish all this while, as she was slowly dying away. He couldn't help but think about Nanami even now. He realizes that Refreya's fading breath is all real, and what's shameful is the fact he wasn't even looking at her as Refreya, the woman who saved his life countless times. He saw only Nanami as he compared the blood lost to that of Nanami. When Refreya assures him that she's fine, he snaps out of his mind and takes hold of a sense of things. Regaining his sense of urgency, he notices that Refreya doesn't have much time left before she dies off. Resolved to give anything in return, he reassures her, this time with determination, that everything is going to turn out fine, and he will heal her soon. Opening the status window, he checks for God's remedies to the transferees, and with this he receives a prompt asking if he wants to borrow advance points. He is about to borrow 3 advance points needed for a healing solution. The system warns him that if he borrows advance points, he would have to abandon the first viewer count race, the race he needed to win to regain his childhood friend, Nanami. With the points he can save Refreya, but if he forfeits the race, he won't be able to bring Nanami back to life. As he weighs his situation, his thought process is interrupted by Refreya's voice, as she asks what he is doing, urging that he run away, even if it's just him that makes it out alive. She even adds that from the onset, if Hikaru didn't save her, she wouldn't be alive to begin with. Hikaru shuns her from saying that, promising to stay by her side. She finds his response funny, so do I, primarily because if he stays beside her till she dies, he has granted her wish of forever, yes, as her forever ends there. Hikaru is showered in guilt as he realizes that he made her suffer because of his failure, but he is determined to make up for it, as he will give anything to heal her, just as she gave everything to help him achieve his goal. Not minding what he had to let go, he agrees to the condition and gets a healing scroll for 3 points. He hands the scroll to her, as she has to be the one to unseal it. Immediately, he assists her to loosen the scroll, and the healing takes place, and she is rejuvenated to her surprise. Relieved, he holds her tightly, expressing his gladness that she made it, admitting to himself that he made the right choice because he was close to losing someone again. The warm moment fades soon, as they're reminded of their bigger problem. However, thanks to the barrier, the Demon Lord lost sight of them for now, so there's no need for them to rush themselves. They just sit pretty and watch the Demon Lord go away. With the danger out of their lives, they have time for small frivolities, like how close they are to each other, with Refreya blushing and Hikaru being entirely clueless, as he wonders if the healing scroll has some side effects when he sees how flushed her face is. When she points out that she's fine and it's just because they're close, he immediately jolts away, missing the entire point. This leaves a shy Refreya hassling him, because she didn't need him to move away so quickly. Next, she comments on how effective the scroll is, making the deep wound that she was prepared to die from look like an illusion. Hikaru urges her to take things slowly and easy, since it's in fact true that she almost died. Refreya assures him that she'll be fine, adding that he still had to defeat the Demon Lord and become number 1. Hearing this made him scared she would do something stupid again, so he makes her promise to not be reckless again, so they avoid situations like the last one. She promises him, relieving him, as they promise to fight together until the end. Deep down, he apologizes to Nanami, adding that the fight is over. I'm pretty sure Nanami wouldn't mind, though. Through the broadcast, Hikaru's sisters find out that he saved Refreya. Both of them are surprised. Celica's hand starts to shake because it's clear that if Refreya is alive, then Nanami isn't coming back. She wipes her tears and forces a small smile, saying she's glad Refreya survived. If she had died too, then their brother would be in pain all the time. She wants to support her brother so he doesn't keep pushing himself too hard. Emotional damage, but she's still in big sister mode. Karen also says she wishes Nanami could come back, but first they need to make sure Hikaru stays alive. The other sister agrees, saying that as long as he's breathing, there is still hope. That's why she reminds her sister they can't just sit around being sad, they need to plan their next steps and move forward. Meanwhile, in the other world, Hikaru wakes up in Refreya's inn. He slowly remembers everything about how they met up with Alex and his team, and how they all worked together to subjugate the Demon Lord. Refreya had awakened new spirit powers during the fight. Her attack finally knocked down the Demon Lord, and right after that, the adventurer must have passed out from all the spirit magic. He groans and whispers Nanami's name. That's when Refreya wakes up and sees him sitting there. She jumps towards him, half excited and half panicking. Our guy asks if she's been looking after him this whole time. She fumbles her words and says she did it because she wanted to, but now they've got something else to deal with. She explains that the city lord is throwing a party to celebrate beating the Demon Lord. The adventurer is confused why they would even do that. It's basically a festival. She wonders if he's feeling okay, and if he is, they should go. He assures her but complains that he doesn't have any formal clothes. The woman laughs and says it's just a party for adventurers. Normal clothes are fine. She tells him to wait by the entrance while she gets ready. This is low-key their first date and neither of them realize it. Hikaru changes into plain clothes, not too flashy, but definitely better than his usual outfit. It kind of feels like he's dressing up for a school prom. He waits outside Refreya's inn and sighs, thinking about how wild it is that they actually fought a Demon Lord. He knows that today might be the last time he sees her, but deep down, he's only here because of her. Suddenly, she shows up and pulls him out of his thoughts. When he turns to look at her, his jaw literally drops. She's in a long gown, blushing like a fairy tale princess and quietly apologizing for the wait. He keeps staring at her like he's under a spell. Refreya gets all flustered and asks what's wrong with him. He looks like someone just cast a love curse on him. He stutters and looks away, trying to play it cool, but mumbles that it's because she looks really pretty. She blushes again and says he looks cool too. Hikaru looks away, thinking he probably looks like a carriage driver standing next to royalty. Refreya leans in and nervously asks if her dress looks weird. He reassures her it looks amazing, and with that, they start walking together. They walk side by side, and the adventurer can feel people staring at them, but Refreya just laughs and tells him it's all in his head. In this city, deep inside that chaotic labyrinth, Hikaru first met Refreya. Maybe it was random, or maybe it was a gift from the gods. He looks at her again and she wonders if something's wrong. As usual, he pretends nothing's up and quickly looks away. She smiles, informing they're almost there. Our guy knows for sure that Refreya is going to become the greatest temple knight of light. They finally arrive at the mansion where the party is happening. Hikaru is stunned at how huge and fancy the place is. This is their red carpet moment. She tells him that the Count owns the mansion and rules this land. Then she grabs his hand and says they should go in. Hikaru can't help but wish that this moment could last forever. They both walk into the party, and it doesn't take long before Refreya's friends swarm her with questions. They all want to know if the rumors are true. Did she really defeat the Demon Lord? Meanwhile, Hikaru chills at the bar and sips his drink. His ears perk up when two guys nearby start talking about a really beautiful girl at the party. You just know he assumes they mean Refreya. He grumbles to himself, noticing how everyone looks like they're having the time of their lives. Sure, he participated in the subjugation of the Demon Lord, but he still feels out of place. Before his pity party gets worse, Alex shows up and asks if he's having fun. Our guy looks away and mutters something sarcastic about how fun it all is. Alex laughs, clearly not buying it. The adventurer then eyes Alex's sharp-looking suit and wonders where he got it. His friend explains that he traded points earned from the Demon Lord battle for it. Apparently, you can get gear that fits you instantly. He suggests Hikaru should try it too. The adventurer gives a dry laugh and says he'll think about it. Then Alex randomly asks if he's dating Refreya. As soon as those words leave Alex's mouth, Hikaru nearly spits out his drink. He panics and explains they're not a couple, just old party members, and that party has already disbanded anyway. His friend is completely shocked, raising his voice about how Refreya did great during the Demon King fight. Alex is low-key the fangirl Hikaru never asked for. Our guy sighs, saying they only teamed up for a while, but his friend can clearly tell Hikaru is acting weird and asks if he's really okay. He's fine, just emotionally malfunctioning. The adventurer's eyes start scanning the room and, like clockwork, Refreya looks right back at him. She starts walking over, but his friend gets way too excited and asks for an introduction, even wiggling his eyebrows. Refreya reaches them and playfully scolds him for drinking while she's holding back. Hikaru quickly introduces Alex, saying they were both in the Demon Lord's subjugation, and that Alex is also from Earth. His friend adds he's from a different hometown, though. As the two start chatting, our guy leans back against the bar, watching the fancy party unfold. Glittering lights, smiling faces, a happy crowd, yet none of it feels like it's for him. He quietly slips out of the party. Refreya notices and tries to follow, but Alex stops her, saying he has something important to tell her, blocking the exit like a true rom-com rival. Outside, night has fallen, and our guy mutters that the darkness feels comforting. He sits down on a bench and stares at the sky. Tomorrow, he'll be heading back into the labyrinth alone. He also decides he needs to cut down the number of viewers watching him. Things got a little too popular for his liking. He stares blankly. That's it. It's really over. His head fills with memories of Refreya. All the time they spent together feels like a dream now. Deep inside, he still wishes they could keep partying together. If he had the courage, he'd tell her that, for real. A soft light glows next to him. Refreya appears out of nowhere, smiling when she sees him. She sits beside him and teases that it looks like he's been crying. He awkwardly denies it, blaming the night breeze. And maybe he just drank too much as he wiped his tears. She sighs and admits it's hard for her to hold it in too. Then she breaks into tears, saying that they should say goodbye with a smile. That's what she decided. Who's cutting onions this late at night? She explains that she's headed back home to take the Temple Knight exam. She made up her mind while he was still unconscious. If she wakes up and still feels the same about Hikaru, she'll tell him before she loses her nerve. She wonders if she'll ever be able to leave him again. Hikaru stays quiet, staring at the ground. He knows their story ended back at that staircase when they waited for the Demon Lord. Refreya asks what happened with the viewer race he mentioned before. He tells her it didn't go well, which also means that his childhood friend is probably gone for good. But he says it's fine, as long as she learns new spirit arts and chases her dream. That's enough for him. A supportive king, even while heartbroken. She cries even harder, yelling that she doesn't care about the new powers. She just doesn't want to be apart from him. She clutches his shoulder, saying that if they could just keep adventuring together. Hikaru's eyes fill with tears too. He says it's probably awful to say now, but he really liked being with her. He's lost count of how many times she's saved him since he landed in this weird new world. She laughs gently, saying she knows what he's thinking, but she still doesn't know if he actually cares about her. Then she adds, if he wants, she's okay with whatever he decides. As she starts to walk away, she holds out her hand and asks him if he wants to dance. When Rifreya asks if they should dance, Hikaru gently apologizes. He reminds her that people from his world are still watching, even now. That's why he can't. But she just grabs his hand and leans in to whisper that she seriously doesn't care about any of that. They hold each other close and start dancing under the moonlight, swaying slowly like they're the only two people in the world. After a while, the woman asks why he left the party by himself. The adventurer replies that he just felt a little out of place. He also mentions that it looked like she was having fun with Alex. She just laughs out, teasing, asking if he really thought she would flirt with him. She throws in a wink and he immediately looks away in embarrassment. He shyly confesses that Alex is way more handsome than him, and that he doesn't think someone like Rifreya would ever be into someone like him. She just smiles and says she appreciates the honesty. His self-esteem clearly needs a patch update. The woman then drops the bomb that she only loves Hikaru. She wants to be with him and only him forever. Our guy freezes like someone just pressed pause on his soul. She adds that Alex isn't even into her like that. Turns out when he stopped Rifreya earlier, he had something serious to say. He told her that Hikaru has been keeping everything bottled up and doesn't seem to have any close friends to rely on. He even bowed his head and begged Rifreya to stay close to his friend and help him through things. He was genuinely worried about him. Give that man a gold medal for emotional support. Our guy is stunned by everything he hears. The woman then mentions that Alex asked her to take care of the adventurer, and after that, he quietly left the party. Our guy then asks something he hasn't had the chance to, and wonders why she wants to become a temple knight so badly. She sighs, mentioning that she has a younger sister, and wonders if he knows about chaotic magic disease. He admits he really doesn't know much about the illnesses in this world. She explains it is basically incurable. Because of that disease, her sister's chances of returning as a temple knight are pretty much gone. Yeah, fantasy world diseases hit hard too. So now Rifreya says it's her turn to step up. For her sister's sake, she has to go back home and become a temple knight. She quietly wishes time would just freeze forever. With a gentle smile, she leans a little closer to him. But our guy instantly panics and reminds her that people are totally watching, and even if it feels like a dream, it's very real. Rifreya leans in and softly whispers, "It is totally fine." And that's all it takes for the adventurer to give in. And suddenly the two are sharing a sweet little kiss with all the love they've been holding in, and knowing deep down this will be their last memory together. Bro finally cashed in all those slow burn romance points. The next morning, they meet for the last time. She's ready to leave and he nervously shuffles his hands into his pocket. He pulls out a small flower and tells her that it's all he could get, but if she would like, she can have it. He explains that he found the flower in the forest when he first came to this world. It's a special kind and it never withers, so she can keep it forever. She takes the flower and laughs a little, saying that giving flowers doesn't really suit him. He pouts and tells her not to say that. Then he adds that he's not sure if it'll help her sister's disease, but if she boiled it, it can be used as medicine. Still flustered, he mumbles that she can just sell it if she doesn't want it. He's heard it's worth more than she might think. She snaps back, saying there's no way she would sell something he gave her. She smiles, saying that because he gave it to her, she feels like it'll actually work. He just stares at her, full of love, as she says it's time for her to go. Hikaru tells her to take care, and she replies that once she passes her exams, she'll come visit him again. So, he absolutely, definitely must not die. That's not a goodbye, that's a cliffhanger. He holds out his hand and they shake on it, with the adventurer promising that he's not planning on dying anytime soon. Her eyes shine with unshed tears, but she keeps smiling. She picks up her luggage and starts walking away.
He stays there quietly watching her disappear with tears in her eyes and in his. Sometimes, heartbreak is hitting harder than a demon lord. He stands still, remembering that moment he first saved Refreya from the mantis. She's the one who taught him what it means to fall in love. Even if life is a gamble, saving her makes coming into this world totally worth it. As tears roll down his cheeks, he whispers a soft goodbye to Refreya. At the same time, on Earth, the sisters are working on a plan. News breaks that a suspect has been arrested in the case of Nanami Soma's family murder. The suspect is a 16-year-old boy. His motives and what happened at the time are still being investigated. Even though things took longer than expected, at least now the public will finally learn who the real criminal is. Celica wonders if they made the right choice. Because of their actions, their brother ended up like this. A memory kicks in when Celica tries to call their brother, but he doesn't respond. Minutes later, Karen gasps and yells that Hikaru's name is on the transfer list. Her sister runs to check if the site is real. The other sister confirms that it was just updated and something weird is happening. They scroll and realize Nanami's name isn't there. Celica instantly gets a bad feeling. Both of them start calling Nanami's house and Hikaru's phone, but no one is answering. You just know something bad is coming. With no time to waste, Celica decides to go to Nanami's house. The crew keeps ringing the bell, but Celica finds it odd. There's no way no one has answered for 15 minutes after the transfer. Then she notices the door is open. And if the door's already open, that's never a good sign. They step inside and her heart starts pounding when she sees her brother's shoes at the entrance. They rush in, and their faces go pale as they see Nanami's parents' bloodied and lifeless bodies. Her knees go weak. Nausea hits her, and tears blur her vision. As she and the broadcast crew go upstairs, she braces herself. She screams when she finds Nanami's dead body. She doesn't know why her brother was chosen to be transferred, but at this moment, it really looks like he's the only one who could have done this. Back on the phone, Karen explains that their brother has landed in a monster-infested forest. If no one helps, he's probably not going to survive. Celica sighs deeply. She tells her sister that things here are bad too. The whole Soma family is gone and they still don't know who the real killer is. When she returns home, Karen tells her that she found the culprit. He's a student from Hikaru's school, and his face is all over social media. There's no mistaking him. The elder breaks down, crying that because of Ozawa, both their brother and Nanami are gone. Karen asks if they should go straight to the police. The other sister, however, just shakes her head. She thinks that if this keeps going, everyone will think Hikaru is the killer. So she decides to flip the script and use that to their advantage. Karen, meanwhile, is totally confused and just stares. The elder sibling explains the plan that she wants them to make up a story that Hikaru killed his childhood friend and escaped to another world on purpose, like he wanted to get isekai'd. Turning tragedy into a shonen plotline? Bold move. She believes that if their brother gets enough attention, his viewer count will go up. More viewers means more points, and those points can be traded for stuff that creates safe zones or helps him survive that crazy forest. The girls hop in a taxi and head over to the Warirase group. They've decided to hide the real killer from the police for now. When they arrive, they greet their grandpa and wish him a happy new year. The siblings show him the broadcast, and seeing his grandson on screen, the man literally panics and demands to know what's going on. The sisters tell him everything about how Nanami was killed, how their brother was probably stabbed too, and how he got transferred to the other world in her place. They also say that they've already figured out who the real killer was, and want Grandpa to keep him hidden. He reminds them that whatever they're planning, it's still technically a crime. Celica calmly pulls out 200 million yen, and mentions that just because they're family doesn't mean she expects free favors. Grandpa nearly chokes on air, asking how she got so much money. She explains that her virtual currency from an old game exploded in value. She adds that her brother is in real danger in the other world, so she needs him to go up in flames, earn points, and survive. The sisters bow deeply and beg their grandpa to hide the real culprit from the public, just long enough to save their brother. Grandpa sighs, clearly stressed, but says he can't say no to his granddaughters. Karen calls out to her sister, snapping her out of her thoughts and bringing her back to the present. She tells her the real culprit's case is finally done and dusted. They were planning to reveal Ozawa and get him arrested after Hikaru safely made it out of the forest. That way, the fake murder story they made up would be cleared too. But things changed. Now, transferees can get messages from Earth, and their lie made Hikaru a trending target for online hate. Yes, it helped him gain support, but it also broke his heart. Celica says she won't make the same mistake again. If there's even the slightest chance Nanami can be brought back to life, she'll do whatever it takes. But she swears to never make her brother sad again. Hikaru just lies on his bed, staring at nothing. He thinks that if he hadn't been transported to another world, he would probably be stressing over which university to go to, or if he should just get a job. Now it all feels like a weird dream. The viewer count race is over, and Refreya is gone. The city feels empty, and so does he. He buries his face in his legs and quietly admits to himself that he is alone. He realizes Refreya was the one reason he ever managed to forget this crushing loneliness. Nanami will never come back to life, and deep down he knows that his name will never be cleared either. Bro's carrying more emotional baggage. He drags himself out of bed and decides to not think too hard. At the guild, he sees the reception is closed. Even after defeating a demon lord, they still can't get in. What a reward! A woman calls him from behind. He turns and recognizes her as the receptionist. She casually mentions hearing that Refreya left the city. He confirms it, not really sure where this is going. She brings up something about his party status. Apparently, the party, called Love Love Twin Birds, hasn't been officially disbanded. He pauses, trying to remember when they even named it that. The name sounds like it came from a dating sim on hard mode. He suggests that if he's flying solo now, maybe he should rename it to Single Bird. Hikaru nearly explodes in embarrassment and instantly confirms the disbanding. Bro got roasted with a party name, and it wasn't even his choice. Later, while walking down the street, he starts questioning all of his life choices. He has no idea how the party was even called that, but whatever. He pushes it out of his head, because now he has to focus on the future. He remembers the moment he promised Refreya that he wouldn't die. That one promise is what keeps him standing. So maybe it's time to really live in this world. He stops in front of a shop, thinking that if he's going to get a job, it'd be smart to start getting some work experience. He also wonders if this world has schools. Maybe he could study instead of being an adventurer. But then again, he has no idea if schools are even a thing here. Farming might be more realistic if the locals are willing to teach him. He doesn't have any dream job in mind. In the end, staying an adventurer might still be the most practical choice. It's not that different from how things were before he met Refreya. While walking, he ends up near the sea. He sees fishing rods for rent and decides to give it a try. I mean, it's been a while since he last fished, and honestly, why not? He rents a fishing rod and tosses the bait into the water. Sitting quietly, he waits for something to bite, but his thoughts keep drifting back to Refreya, especially that night when they shared a quiet, sweet moment under the moonlight. The adventurer remembers her saying that there was no one watching except the moon, and maybe she was right. The only real sign they're being observed is the number on the status screen. Maybe she was trying to tell him that he cared too much about the viewers, about the judgment, about everything. Even now, he still thinks about her. Someday, he figures, he will even start thinking of Earth like it was just some weird dream. When your old life feels like season 1 of a canceled show. Suddenly, the fishing rod jerks. He pulls it up and gasps at the fish flapping on the line. It kind of looks like a horse mackerel. He shrugs, figuring he'll take it to Grapeful later. He wonders what Refreya is doing right now. Meanwhile, Refreya climbs the stairs and sighs. She is finally back home. But as soon as she gets there, she feels this empty feeling in her chest. Just thinking about Hikaru makes her panic a little. She knows Hikaru is strong, but what if he gets hurt in the labyrinth while she's not around? She grabs her head in frustration. She misses him so much, it's driving her nuts. The long-distance struggle hits different in fantasy worlds, but she's also scared. If she goes back now without passing the Temple Knight exam, Hikaru might think she gave up. She doesn't want him to hate her more than he might already, so she makes up her mind. She is going to pass that Temple Knight exam and run straight back to him. No way is she giving up on her first love. Back in town, our guy heads to the shop and asks if Grapeful is around. The cat beastkin lights up when she sees the adventurer. It's been a while since he showed his face. He says he's glad to see that she's doing well too. She asks if the labyrinth is still off limits, and he casually tells her he's not working today. Even adventurers need a day off to touch grass, or fish. When he gives her the fish, she lets out a happy little meow. He says that he just happened to catch it while fishing. She thanks him, and as he's about to leave, she asks him to call her next time he goes into the labyrinth. He nods, waves, and heads back out into the evening streets. As he walks, he passes a familiar restaurant. the one Refreya once dragged him into for a drink. He sits down with the drink, but his thoughts can't stop circling back to Refreya. His expression shifts as memories hit harder than his drink. This tea is served with a side of regret. The doorbell chimes as someone enters the restaurant. A woman walks over and spots him sitting in the farthest corner. She says she finally found him, the black-haired boy. Hikaru blinks, totally confused. He has no idea who this lady is, but she clearly knows him and asks if he is Hikaru. Can this man ever catch a break, or is it just more plot twists headed straight for him? He looks at the woman and wonders where she's from. After thinking for a moment, he remembers seeing her before, during that TV special where all of the trans-frees were shown together. She was standing next to Nanami. Her name is Jean Colette. Hikaru doesn't care if people think he killed Nanami, but this feels different from when he argued with Alex. Jean seems like she probably holds some kind of hostility toward him. The adventurer wonders what she wants from him. Has she come here to kill him or what? She lets out this creepy little chuckle, like she's just waiting for him to take the bait. You know it's bad when someone laughs like a final boss. Her face suddenly shifts to something intense, and she even wonders if he wants to fight her. The restaurant waitress immediately cuts in, reminding them that if they're going to fight, they better take it outside. The man grunts that fighting is exactly what he wants. They both step out of the restaurant and face off in the street. A crowd starts forming around them, people whispering and getting hyped like it's some live-action anime battle. Our guy figures this woman must have quite a few viewers on her side. With the way she is bursting with self-confidence, she's probably pretty strong. Well, she's either strong or dangerously overconfident, or both. Jean straight up accuses him of killing his childhood friend. His eyes go wide, but he denies it calmly. She shouts at him again, asking why he doesn't just forget his dead lover and go find someone new in this world. Hikaru bluntly tells her he's not interested in love, but then she drops the bomb and wonders how he can say that when he kissed Refreya. Now he's the one caught off guard. He stumbles for words. Yeah, he expected the viewers to be watching, but this? This is just straight up messy. He snaps back that no matter who he's with or what he does, she doesn't have a word to say. Let our soft boy live in peace. The woman agrees, but adds that someone asked her to test him. That's why she needs to see what kind of person he really is. Hikaru clenches his fists and repeats what he's been saying. He didn't do anything. Jean doesn't care. She pulls out her sword and challenges him to show her what he's got. Our MC is confused, like, what's her real goal here? But either way, if he doesn't fight back, he's toast. So he grabs his own sword and says one thing, that he's not dying today. The woman laughs, saying his fighting stance is the best she has ever seen. Then she casually pulls a shield from behind her and hides behind it like a pro. She says he looks strong, and our guy just shrugs and hopes that's true. With that, the fight begins. Hikaru immediately casts Phantom Warrior using his dark spirit arts. He has no interest in playing with the woman's flashy power. The crowd loses it. They've never seen a move like that before. His spirit warrior rushes toward Jean. She doesn't flinch, but that's okay for him. He only needed that 1 second when her eyes looked away. The male adventurer casts another spell, and this time, it's a darkness fog. He rushes to her side, planning to block her vision, but something feels off, and he starts to wonder if the spirit of darkness actually hates this girl. He suspects that Jean might be using some item that cancels out his spirit arts, but this fog is just meant to block light. If he immerses himself in it, then he would have the upper hand. Even better, the noise from the crowd helps to drown out the sound of his footsteps. He silently gets behind her and puts his sword near her neck. He knows he's not stronger than her, but technically, a win is a win, even if it's on hard mode. But Jean smiles and turns her head, whispering something like, "Sweet." She spins around and faces him directly, as if she can see right through the darkness. Hikaru's brain crashes because there's no way she should be able to see him. He is literally cloaked in fog, but it seems like the tiniest movement gave him away. She jumps at him and slams him to the ground, pinning him under her weight. He lies there confused, wondering if she somehow figured out where he was. She calmly says that if you want to kill someone, then do it instantly. That little pause of hesitation, a fatal mistake. And that's exactly what happened to our poor MC. He looks at her with nothing but disappointment. Cursing under his breath, he admits to himself that he really did hesitate there for a moment. How naive of him that this girl came to kill him and he still held back. You either win or you get bodied for catching feelings. His head spins with questions. Is he really about to die? Is he really going to be killed by another transferee? But in the end, it comes down to one brutal truth. It's either him or her. When he rose through the ranks of Shadowbind, he unlocked a new technique, a powerful binding spell that restrains his opponent completely. This time he casts Dark Coffin and hopes this one will turn the tide. Please work, for once. Just once. Even if Jean has something to block spirit arts, this spell should still work. It covers a wide area and should overpower small nullification items. But Jean's already figured it out. She smirks, guessing it's some kind of coffin move. She grabs Hikaru and yanks him away before the spell lands. He grunts, thrown off again. She then locks the coffin with her own magic, coolly explaining that as long as he's outside the range, he's fine. And since the spell names are obvious, it's easy to guess what they do. The adventurer grabs her sword and places it against his neck, asking if they're done. That's the moment Hikaru realizes it's game over. She didn't beat him physically, she beat his whole soul. He sighs to himself that maybe this is his fate after all. Everything's starting to feel pointless now. He's been branded as the murderer of his childhood friend, and on top of that, he can't even be with the people he loves in this world. And now he's being judged by another transferee from the same Earth and scrutinized by the viewers like some twisted form of entertainment. He quietly tells her that if he dies, she should take his ID to the guild. Jean scoffs, asking if he's really giving up that easily. Hikaru simply says he's already exhausted. If she's going to end it, then go ahead. He's ready. He closes his eyes and apologizes to Refreya in his heart, saying he couldn't keep his promise to live. The adventurer lies still, accepting defeat and thinking he's about to die. But instead of a final splash, Jean's sword hits the ground right next to his head. Hikaru turns his head and blinks in shock. She didn't strike him. She simply pulls her sword back and calmly puts it away in the sheath. Now he's just confused. Why didn't she finish him off? The woman shrugs, saying that sure, she said she would try, but she never promised to kill him. The adventurer is thrown off by that logic. Then she smirks and casually declares herself the winner. He is still speechless, and before he can even process anything, she tosses a gemstone next to him. Hikaru catches it midair, totally baffled by what's happening now. Jean tells him the stone is from his sister, Celica. Apparently she asked her to give it to him because he wanted it, right? Okay, so we're just out here doing deliveries now? Hikaru's ears perk up the moment he hears his sister's name. His brain spins as he wonders how this woman even knows Celica. She casually explains that it was from a message. Celica wanted him to have the jewel. Our guy stares at her like she has lost it. They were literally trying to kill each other minutes ago, and now she's handing him a gemstone? He's not buying it. He questions what the woman is really planning on. She waves it off, saying she just wanted to duel with another transferee for fun. The man snaps and yells, "She could have died! Is she even serious?" But she calmly replies that if she had died, that's just what her worth was, nothing more. She adds that this world works like that. Even if you don't die today, you never know about tomorrow. If you don't walk with the death by your side, then you will never be strong. Hikaru goes quiet. He starts to get what she's saying, but still, it's hard to understand why she's doing all of this. Jean just tilts her head, saying that maybe things just went that way. Blame the flow. Apparently girl's taking advice from ocean currents now. She suddenly strikes a dramatic pose and asks if she looks cool. Hikaru stares at her with his mouth half open, thinking she's a complete weirdo. The situation feels surreal, like they're talking, but not really connecting. He gestures to the gemstone again, trying to focus. He asks what it is exactly. The adventurer explains it's the Jewel of Resurrection, the grand prize from the viewer count race. She knows he was risking his life to win it. His eyes widen as he looks at the jewel, stunned. Meanwhile, the woman reflects on how this world might suit her after all. In a place where only the strong survive, maybe she fits in better than she thought. She's built different, and she knows it. Back when the first viewer count race ended, Jean placed first and won the Jewel of Resurrection. But then, messages from the new communication system started piling up. The alerts never stopped dinging. That's when one message caught her eye. It was from Hikaru's little sister Celica. The woman begs the adventurer to give the resurrection orb to her brother. She wants him to use it to bring Nanami back to life. She promises they will do everything they can to make it happen. Jean thinks over the name Hikaru, and after a moment, it clicks. He's the guy suspected of killing Nanami. She knows the orb only works if the person you're trying to revive really matters to you. So she wonders if Hikaru can bring Nanami back to life. Finding the whole thing kind of interesting, the woman tells his sister to reduce the number of messages sent to her for a while. If she can manage that, she will hand the orb over to Hikaru. She believes Hikaru is the one who truly deserves to hold this orb. Destiny just gave him a second chance and a glowing rock. The woman tells him that it was all a trade, and his sister did her part perfectly. Hikaru groans, thinking this is all a messed up prank. He says the orb isn't the only one out there, so why does this feel like someone's messing with him again? He accuses Jean of making fun of him, thinking it's some cruel joke. She sighs, saying she wouldn't lie about something like this. She even talked to Nanami before the transfer, and she's fine with him being the one to bring her back. Hikaru stares into the shiny jewel and questions if he really has what it takes to bring Nanami back. He nervously asks if he can use it, and Jean rolls her eyes and tells him to stop asking the same thing. Finally, he starts to believe it's possible, and tears start pouring out. Our guy drops to his knees and cries hard. He always thought that everyone on Earth was against him, but at least his sister Celica believed in him. Someone out there actually cared about him. Seeing him sob, Jean freaks out and quickly sits beside him, trying to calm him down. But our guy bawls even harder, burying his face in her shoulder. When night falls, the woman gently asks if he's calmed down. Hikaru nods and apologizes, saying that a lot had happened and he just lost his cool. She sighs, telling him it makes sense now, and there's no way he killed Nanami. Hikaru's caught off guard and asks if she really believes him. Jean says she knew the moment she met him. She also trusted Celica when she said he was innocent. He did his best all on his own. Hearing that makes Hikaru emotional again, but he changes the topic. He wonders if his sister sends her a lot of messages. She just shrugs, saying just a few. He awkwardly asks if Celica ever said anything about him in the message, like whether she came to see for herself if he was really a murderer or not. Jean casually replies that from what she can tell, he's a virgin. A girl just dropped a what bomb like it's small talk. Hikaru flips out and demands to know what she's saying. The woman laughs, quickly clarifying she meant he's never killed anyone. The difference between murder and, yeah, she needs to work on phrasing. She points at the resurrection jewel and wonders if he's going to use it or not, but our guy has no clue how to activate it. He wonders if he's supposed to just break it or something. The woman sighs, explaining he has to hold it in his hand and pray to God. He nods, holds the orb tight, and decides to use it. And now, finally, it's time to bring Nanami back to life. The adventurer decides it's finally time to use the gemstone, but just as he's about to activate it, Jean gets a message from Hikaru's sister and immediately stops him. She tells him Celica wants them to wait until tomorrow before using the orb. He gets confused, like what difference does a day even make? Jean explains that this will be the first time ever a human is brought to life, so Earth is about to have one wild night. She gives him a quick glance and cheerfully tells him they should go grab some food. All this drama's made her hungry. She drags him to a restaurant, but it turns out she is just here to drink. After finishing one glass, she immediately orders another, saying it tastes amazing. Our guy stares at her and can't help but comment on how much she's drinking. The woman shrugs it off, saying tomorrow is going to be a happy day, so this is her celebration. Our guy just shakes his head and tells her to at least promise she'll be awake on time. Jean casually tells him to just come to her inn. He immediately fires back, saying that totally sounds like she has no intention of waking up, does she? Later that night, the adventurer heads back home. He holds the orb in his hands, gazing at it like it's a precious treasure. His eyes shimmer with hope that tomorrow, Nanami might actually come back to life. The day she died, it felt like time completely stopped for him. Now, as he sits on his bed, it finally feels real. This isn't a dream anymore. He went from emotional damage to emotional healing. Finally! Morning arrives and our guy walks to Jean's inn, waiting outside. He checks the time and thinks that she's late, really late. He finally snaps, wondering how she could be this late. He can't help but wonder if she's already gone. Hikaru walks inside and stands in front of Jean's room. He knocks and tells her it's time already, asking if she's awake. Suddenly, a loud crash comes from inside, making him freeze. He wonders out loud if she's okay. The door slowly creaks open and she steps out, half asleep, wearing only an oversized shirt. Our guy instantly gasps and almost covers his eyes like he's in a drama. Bro's about 2 seconds from turning into a statue out of shock. Jean lets out a big yawn and stretches, casually saying it's been a while since she slept in a bed. It felt amazing. He looks at her face and notices it's a complete change from how she looked during the duel, and now she's just like a girl his age. But then she catches him staring and asks what exactly he's staring at. Turns out he was totally zoned out, and unfortunately, his eyes were fixed on her chest. Jean instantly calls him a pervert and Hikaru panics hard. He waves his hands and swears he didn't mean it, apologizing like 5 times in a row. His soul left his body for a second there. She just grins, clearly amused by how red his face got. A little later, Jean steps out of the inn properly dressed and apologizes for making him wait. Hikaru just nods awkwardly, still half mortified. She explains that mornings aren't her thing and she's always been a night owl. The adventurer agrees, saying he gets it. There was a time when he couldn't wake up either after sleeping in a bed for once. She tells him Celica's prepared now, so it's time to choose where to use the orb. She asks him straight up if he's really going to bring Nanami back. Hikaru says there are too many people around, so he wants to use the inn's garden instead. They head over, and once there he prepares the orb. His screen shows a prompt asking if he wants to use the Jewel of Resurrection. To activate it, he has to pray to God. Confused, he turns to Jean and asks what pray to God even means in this situation. She just tells him to try whatever he feels like, so he closes his eyes and simply prays that his wish will be granted. A new message pops up saying his wish has reached God, and now he can bring back one person who's important to him. The screen asks, "Will you revive Nanami Soma?" Our guy stares at the message. He really does want Nanami back, but then he pauses. Jean notices, wondering what's wrong. She can't see his screen, so she's not sure if the resurrection already happened. He softly replies that he hasn't done it yet. He explains he suddenly pictured Nanami waking up confused and alone in that empty room. Now he's not sure anymore. Does he really have the right to bring her back? She looks at him for a moment before reminding him that everything right now is being streamed back to Earth. She's confident the neighbors and the state will look after her once she's revived. Plus, Hikaru has two awesome sisters backing him up. The adventurer smiles and agrees with her, then, without any more hesitation, taps yes on the screen, silently wishing for Nanami to return. The gemstone glows brightly, and the system announces that God has revived Nanami Soma. He looks at the orb, unsure if it really worked. After all, he's still in another world, and everything still feels the same. There's no sign that Nanami has come back to life. Still, if Nanami really is alive again, then maybe he can stop feeling stuck and finally move forward with his life. Jean suddenly says it's her turn to talk. She reminds him that when you lose, you need to listen to the winner. That's just how it works. It's winner's privilege. Hikaru is a bit thrown off, but he gets it. After all, she did give him the orb. He tells her he'll listen to whatever she wants. The woman finds that answer acceptable, and then hits him with her real question if there's a labyrinth in this city, and you already know she's planning something chaotic. He nods and adds that it's a big one, even by global standards. Jean lights up and tells him she wants to complete it, and she orders Hikaru to come with her. Our MC blinks, shocked by her choice of words. Complete it? As in, going all the way to the bottom? He reminds her that no one's even reached the 6th level yet. She just gets more excited, saying that makes it even better. They'll be the first ones to set foot in this place. He admits that might be true, but isn't it also kind of dangerous? She sees the hesitation on his face and calls him out, saying that if he's too scared, he can stay behind. She'll just go alone. That makes him yell in frustration. He finally admits that he's just worried about her, and says he'll think about it. He was planning to keep adventuring anyway. She laughs, clearly knowing he'll agree eventually, and tells him to take his time. We all know he's already mentally packed for the dungeon trip. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Nanami opens her eyes and stares at her hands in total confusion. She's been resurrected right in the spot where she was killed. She looks around, completely lost, wondering how she ended up back here. Nanami feels like she's been dreaming for a really long time. In the dream, she was just floating in an endless orange sea, with nothing around her but silence. In that strange afterlife, the same view repeats forever. It's peaceful, but also exhausting. She's had enough, but one day she hears a voice that really feels familiar. It tells her to come back home. Her eyes fly open as she realizes whose voice it is. She sits up quickly, wondering if it's Hikaru. Then she sees a pillar of glowing light, and the voice keeps calling to her. She swims toward the light, and before she knows it, she wakes up in her own room. Her mind is spinning, trying to figure out how she even got there. Then a woman walks in and calls her name. Nanami blinks and realizes it's Karen. The woman confirms it, but then asks if Nanami understands her clearly. She's confused by that. Understand what? She remembers that this is her room and that she was chosen to be another worlder. She was also preparing for the transfer, but then it hits her. On transfer day, she was stabbed by a classmate she didn't even know. She looks down and wonders why she's still alive then. Was it just a dream? Hikaru's sister asks if she's feeling okay. She nods and apologizes for zoning out, and then suddenly gasps. But her reaction doesn't slip past Karen.
Her expression falters when Nanami catches her, saying she's Celica, and questioning why she's dressed like Karen. Celica laughs, then casually switches her hair into a ponytail, revealing her true identity. She teases that her real big sister would never confuse her with Karen. Nanami still doesn't get what's going on, and Celica explains that she's been resurrected by the power of God. Nanami is still processing the whole resurrection thing, but the other shrugs it off, saying a lot happened. At least now she's sure Nanami can tell her and Karen apart. Clearly, she's really back. Her hands touch her chest, and that's when she realizes she isn't wearing anything at all. She lets out a panicked scream and yanks the bedsheet off the bed to cover herself. She freaks out, demanding to know why she's naked. Hikaru's sister casually points out that resurrection is basically like being born, right? She even left some clothes there for her, so she should probably go ahead and put them on. Nanami yells at her for not mentioning that earlier, but then sees the clothes and feels a little relieved, especially when she notices underwear was included. Celica adds one more thing, that this miracle is being filmed right now. She gestures towards a photographer she hired. Nanami is horrified, but the younger woman explains it is only natural. After all, she's the first human to be resurrected. And that is more than big news. Nanami yells that Celica is heartless, and now she can't ever get married. Still grumbling, she changes her clothes and walks downstairs with her. Hikaru's sister stops her and gently asks if she remembers what happened on transfer day, right before she died. Nanami's face turns serious and says she does remember. That morning, a boy from her class, someone she barely even knew, came to her house. She didn't want to let him in her room, so she told him to wait in the living room. But while she was getting dressed upstairs, she heard a noise downstairs, and the moment she opened her door to check, the boy suddenly stabbed her. She's pretty sure she died back then, but she doesn't get what Celica means by resurrection. Hikaru's sister calmly tells her the truth, that Nanami did die, but her brother Hikaru brought her back to life. Nanami's eyes widen as soon as she hears Hikaru's name. She immediately asks where he is, and why hasn't he come to see her? Isn't he worried too? Celica explains that her brother is in another world now, and Nanami's jaw drops again. Like, why would he be there? She admits she's not sure if he took Nanami's place or not, but on the day Nanami died, Hikaru was transferred. The only person he could bring back to life was Nanami. She also shares one more gut punch, that her parents were killed too, but Hikaru couldn't save them. Hearing that her mom, dad, and childhood friend are all gone hits Nanami like a truck. She suddenly feels like she doesn't belong in that world. She looks at her hands. The mark that used to be on her palm is gone, and now she can't even meet Hikaru. Celica suddenly pulls her into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face as she says she's just glad her big sister came back safely. She was so worried before Nanami came back to life, and now that she's here, she's warm and feels exactly the same. Not even death could break the sister bond. Hearing all this brings Nanami to tears as well. She says she's truly happy to be back and thanks Celica and the other Kurose siblings for everything. Celica apologizes for not explaining everything sooner because she had to make sure Nanami was really back, and so she officially welcomes her home. Meanwhile, out on the streets, people are staring up at a giant billboard. A mysterious voice booms across the sky. It's God. God asks if his dear children have been doing well, and then drops a bombshell that exactly at midnight 20 days from today, the second transfer will begin. Ah, great. Another round of hell begins. Everyone is stunned after hearing the announcement about a second transfer. Even Hikaru and Jean freeze when they get the same notification about another round of being sent to a new world. God's voice continues, explaining he didn't expect 30% of the 10,000 transferees to drop out. Turns out this world is a lot rougher than he imagined. This time he plans to be more careful. Only people who really want to go to the other world will be chosen, so no more dragging along confused high schoolers. He almost forgets to mention one last thing, that former transferees who had the right but died can have their rights restored through resurrection. A special slot has been added, and the list is now being broadcast for all to see. Even Nanami Soma's name appears on it. Nanami gasps when she sees the glowing mark on her hand. She realizes that this means she really can see Hikaru again.
God also announces that the chat function that lets viewers send messages to the transferees is temporarily disabled. For now, viewers are instructed to simply watch and wait, without sharing any unnecessary information with either the first or second batch of transferees. He ends by saying that the lucky ones chosen will soon begin a meaningful new life in another world, exactly 20 days from now. Just then, Celica's phone rings. She picks up and her sister urgently tells her to check something. A new transferee list has been posted on God's website, and they need to see number 188. Celica's face drains of all color when she sees the name and photo. She shows it to Nanami, who nearly jumps out of her skin. The classmate who stabbed her is on that list too. Meanwhile, in prison, Ozawa stares at the glowing mark on his hand and laughs darkly. Looks like he got picked too. He smugly says that God chose him in the end. Celica turns to Nanami with a serious look and says clearly that if Nanami goes back like this, weak and untrained, she won't survive in the other world, let alone be able to find Hikaru. At the same time, Jean warns Hikaru that without the chat function, finding Nanami will be almost impossible. Even if he searches blindly, there's a real chance he could die in this vast world. Nanami asks if Celica is telling her to just give up on seeing Hikaru again, but the younger sees the fire in her sister's eyes and promises that she is going to train her until she can survive, even if it kills her trying. She just wants to make sure Nanami is ready for what's coming. She knows it sounds harsh, especially after Nanami came back to life and lost her whole family, but she doesn't want her sister to die again. Both Nanami and Hikaru tell Jean and Celica the same thing, that they've already died once, and if it means seeing their childhood friend again, they're not afraid to risk it all. Celica gets it, saying she'll reach out to a private military company for help. Nanami stares at her shocked, like what the heck is she even saying? Hikaru's sister keeps going like it's no big deal. She tells Nanami that the next 20 days are going to be rough. And yeah, they'll have to sneak around in double base cases because the press is waiting outside. Another woman tells them to go ahead, and Nanami is now fully freaking out. Double base case? Is this some kind of spy movie? Celica gives her a wink and says it's fine. The woman is her bodyguard. That makes Nanami even more confused. Why does a middle schooler have a bodyguard? She can't help but think about how much she missed when she was dead. The world has clearly moved on without her. Her sister responds that she's no longer the cute little sister who needs her brother's protection. With a gesture, she tells Nanami to come along. That simple moment shifts something in Nanami, and she realizes it's time for her to change too. She silently asks Hikaru to wait for her, and promises to get stronger and meet him again. Meanwhile, back in the other world, Jean tells Hikaru she can still read old messages, but she won't get any new ones. It seems like the chat feature has been shut off for good. Then she starts listing other updates like she's reading patch notes. Hikaru side-eyes her and wonders if she is secretly into this whole game-like setup. Jean mutters that things just got a lot worse, as she notices a new feature, a map. Hikaru squints at the blue dot and asks what's up with that. She points out that the dots show where they are right now. It means transferees can now meet each other without even needing to message. Our guy doesn't see the problem. He thinks it's helpful, especially if they want to find Nanami. But the woman shakes her head. She says that's exactly the problem. The next batch of transferees could be coming not to help, but to kill. Friendly fire just got a whole lot easier. Thanks, GPS. If someone brought a gun into this world, they wouldn't stand a chance with the just swords. Not as they are now. He knows she is probably right, and even though he doesn't know if Nanami really came back to life, he is sure there are people out there who hate him. The woman tells him to stop thinking like that. It doesn't matter what people in the other world think of them. What matters is here and now. Hikaru smiles, impressed by how cool she sounds. He admits that he's happy that his childhood friend might be coming to this world, but honestly, he's not even sure if he'll get to see her. And with 20 days left until the new transfer begins, he knows one thing is that he has to survive. Jean reminds him they've still got time, and more importantly, the labyrinth has reopened today, so she's been dying to get back in there. Hikaru nods, suggesting they should find a scout first. In another town, Rifreya's doctor confirms that the flower she found is the real deal. The roots can be turned into medicine that will cure her sister's illness. Her sister bursts into tears at the good news. Rifreya smiles, amazed that the flower Hikaru gave her back then is actually the cure. She silently tells him to wait for her. She's going to pass the Temple Knight exam and return to him. Meanwhile, Hikaru, Jean, and Grapeful finally reach the labyrinth. Jean grins like she's been counting down the days. She's been waiting for this moment for way too long. She's more hyped for this dungeon than people get for sales. Our MC thinks about how the darkness always felt comfortable to him. He didn't want anyone to see him, and only when he became one with the shadows did he truly feel at peace. But now, for the first time, he feels okay being seen, because these people remember him.